Kathy Pogue and her daughter, 18-year-old student Dana Pogue, are suing Dana's sister, 20-year-old caregiver Nina Hawk, and her husband, 22-year-old inventory specialist John Hawk. Catherine and Dana say the couple owe for babysitting fees, the value of a couch, and money taken from a bank account. The Hawks are countersuing for 3 months of living expenses.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 135 on the calendar in the matter of Pogue versus Hawk. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mrs. Pogue, this young lady is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is your other daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the
husband.
Let's deal with your daughter's lawsuit first, because I think that that might be easier. You are suing your sister because you claim when you were living with her, she had promised to pay you for babysitting.
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
18.
How old were you when you were living with your sister?
18.
When did you start to live with your sister?
The middle of February.
Why?
I was kicked out of my father's house because I did not get along with my new stepmother. So Nina and her husband said that it would be fine for me to move in with them.
How long had you been living with your father?
I moved in with my father when I was 15.
Prior to that, you had lived with your mother?
Yes.
Why did you leave your mother's house?
Me and my mom didn't really get along at the time.
Now, what was your living arrangement with your sister?
At the beginning, we lived in an apartment, and I had my own room. And then after that, we moved into a bigger house, so I still had my own room.
Okay. Were you paying any expenses?
Yes. Actually, no, I had them under my name. I had the cable under my name and the telephone under my name, but they were paying it.
So you were not paying any expenses in the house?
No, because I was still going to school. And
the answer is you were not. You were 18, but not paying any expenses in the house.
Yes.
Were you getting any money from your mother and father?
No.
Who was giving you spending money?
My sister.
And how many months did you live with her?
3 months, I think, exactly.
Is that right?
3.5 months.
So for 3.5 months, you lived while you were legally an adult, 18. You're living with your sister. You're not paying rent. You're not paying for food.
No,
You're not paying for transportation. And if you had to go to a movie or something, if you wanted to go to a movie or out with friends.
No, I paid for it. I never asked her to pay for it.
Did she ever give you any spending money? I mean, I can't believe that in 3.5 months you didn't say, could I have $5 or could I have $10 or...
Bought her clothes, gave her money. Yes, I gave her $50 one time, $30 another just for spending money, paid for her boutonniere for her prom, bought her pants, bought her a whole outfit, bought her food for a bird. She neglected to tell me the last month her bird was without food and it died. But besides that, I paid it all.
So why would you sue her for babysitting occasionally for her children?
Because it was a verbal agreement that she said she would give me $110 from her financial aid for going to school to watch her daughter.
During the summer, if I worked, and she made me almost lose my job. I had only worked there a week and a half, and she bailed out on me every single time I asked her to babysit during that only week and a half that she lived with me and I worked.
I'm not going to bother with your babysitting claim, so now you can sit down. You should say thank you to your sister and forget it. All right, now let's get to your claim. There came a time when you wanted to use a bank account that was your daughter's. And you put money into a bank account that was in her name and her husband's?
Just my name.
Just your name?
She opened the account for me, Your Honor.
She couldn't get an account anywhere else. It was a favor.
But then, when you moved that account, there were some outstanding checks, I gather, or outstanding debits, and they took part of the balance that belonged to your mother. You acknowledge that?
Yes.
How much did they take that belonged to you?
$134.77, Your Honor.
Okay, well, you are clearly owed that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. She did not give me a chance to pay it, though.
All right, $134.77.
We called twice, Your Honor, and her husband said to me
after
on the
offering
phone,
to make payments.
no, before I even had any chance to say anything else, her husband said to me, quote, unquote, take me to court.
Lick my Your Honor.
And that was very unbelievable.
Yeah, sure is. Not the way to speak to somebody, sir. I'm just telling you. There's no excuse for that.
She called. She called my mom's house because we didn't have a phone at the time, and told my mom what happened. So I think it was like 4 days later. I called her Colette.
He said, "I hear you're going to take me to court."
No, just please.
Okay.
And I said, "I hear my mom tells me you're going to sue me for money that was taken out of your account to cover our other account." And she said yes. And I said, and she wanted the money by the 1st. She said it was part of her rent money. And I said, I don't know if I can give you all that money by the 1st because my rent's also due. And she said that wasn't acceptable. She needed her money and that I was going to stiff her. And I said, well, then you have to then sue me.
No, I'm telling you, sir, that what you said to her was uncalled for.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, good. Then I don't have to yell at you anymore.
Also, Your Honor, he told me that I couldn't see my granddaughter anymore.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Well, if you weren't smoking pot and drinking alcohol and
Shh.
everything else,
Stop.
maybe I'd allow you.
Please, I am not getting into this. Let me just
No.
take care of the money, please.
Yes.
You want to fight with each other? Do it outside.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your Honor.
Listen to me. Shouldn't say anything else that is going to make any situation worse.
And later today,
They dressed shamelessly and makeup, and they were hellions. We're 9 and 11 going on 17.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Pogue and her daughter Dana Pogue say Dana's sister, Nina Hawk, and her husband John owe for babysitting fees, a couch, and stolen money.
You have some nonsense here about a couch that you say you loaned to your daughter and she sold.
Yes, ma'am.
You sure you want to get into that?
Ma'am, that was the agreement
What?
between her and I.
What was the
Okay, I had a pretty good sized house, and I was going to move closer to my job.
Go ahead. What year was this?
The beginning of the year 2000.
All right. You said take one of my couches.
I said take both the sofa and the love seat. Please keep them in your control. If you decide to get rid of them, please, I would like them back. Or if you decide to sell them, this is how much I would like for them, because she said that her friend had expressed an interest in buying them. Come to find out, I asked her about them, and she said, oh, no, Danielle has them in storage. And I said, oh, well, then was Danielle going to buy them? And she said, Danielle already gave me the $350. And I said, well, then why didn't you give it to me? She said, well, I needed to use it at the time. And I said, okay, I understand that, but that was the agreement that you agreed to pay for them.
Go ahead.
This woman talks to me on a
No.
daily basis.
Talk to me about the couches.
She knows exactly what happened. When I was 17, April, she moved out to live with her boyfriend in Vancouver. She left me half the furniture. I've still got the buffet table, the sewing machine, never said anything about payment. I never expected this. I sold it to a friend of mine a year later. I was evicted a week and a half after she moved out because she hadn't paid 4 months' rent.
Okay, when your mother moved, who remained in the house with you?
My boyfriend and his best friend had to move in and help pay expenses.
Just a second. So it was just you and your boyfriend?
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close.
Forget the couches. Judgment for the plaintiff on your claim for $134.77. Let me deal with your counterclaim for a moment.
Okay.
And it will take only a moment.
Okay.
Your sister moved in with you, and your counterclaim is that your mother should pay for the 3 months that your sister lived with you.
She offered to help pay out and never paid a
I
dime
did
to help.
not, Your Honor.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Well, if you did not have what I consider a real contract with your mother, your sister she certainly is under no obligation to pay anything for your sister who had turned 18. So you want to tell me what financial contract you allege with your mother with regard to your sister's support?
Not anything in writing, just verbally that she said she'd help out whenever she could and
Helping
did
out
not.
whenever she could is not a contract.
Yeah.
Because she can't. But she's going to tell you that she can't. All right, so your counterclaim is dismissed, and on your claim you have $134.77.
Okay.
Listen, I don't know what caused all of this animus all of a sudden, because it sounds to me as if, despite its dysfunctional nature, the family had been working reasonably well.
I love both my daughters dearly, Your Honor.
Well,
Your Honor, may I
Yeah.
ask you something?
who are you?
I talked to
Just,
Mr.
no, how are you related to these people?
He lives with me, Your Honor.
And
And he spoke with John
It was-
about the money owed.
I'm the other person that was on the account. It was my money also.
Just a second. Are
I've
you
got proof
related?
that it
Are you
wasn't.
related to any of these people in any way?
No, Your Honor.
Then I don't want to hear from you.
They tried to say it was his.
Love your show, by the way.
Good. I love your silence.
Your Honor.
Listen to me. Shouldn't say anything else that is going to make any situation worse.
Your Honor, I had no intention of doing that. I would like to tell you that the babysitting thing was Dana did want to go out and get a job. They told her, no, please, we will pay you for babysitting. That was how that all came about.
Ms. Polk, let me tell you something.
I understand.
If an 18-year-old moves in with a sister and her husband, and there isn't a lot of money floating around, it seems anywhere there's not a lot of money floating around, and it does cost money to have another human being in your house.
Yes.
I am positive that they extended themselves in certain ways financially.
That's probably
in order
true,
to
yeah.
have your daughter, her sister, living with them. Whether it's for a pair of shoes or a pair of sneakers or something for graduation or an outfit or $5 to go to the movies or whatever. There shouldn't have been an issue. There shouldn't even have been an issue with regard to this suit by your daughter. That's all. So let's not say any more. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $134.77. That's all.
Thank you,
Parties
Your
are
Honor.
excused. You may step out.
They just don't understand that family is family.
I'm really sorry it had to come to this.
Basically, they've run out of people to borrow money from because they burnt all their bridges, and that's what this is really about.
I don't understand why it happened.
I called him up, asked him if he wanted to handle it like a man and make payments, and he said, no, take me to court.
Customer Service Supervisor David Barrientos is suing his sister's boyfriend, 24-year-old student Samuel Randolph, for medical bills due to an assault.
Come to order. All rise. Now, this is case number 160 on the calendar in the matter of Barrientos versus Randolph. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Barrientos, the defendant was or is your sister's boyfriend.
Correct.
Is he currently her boyfriend?
Yes.
Your complaint is that he and your sister had some sort of an argument, and later on that day you became, or the next day you became involved, and you claim he assaulted you.
Correct.
You want him to pay for your medical bills and for pain and suffering as a result of the assault. Mr. Randolph says he was merely defending himself. So why don't you tell me how this problem started with your sister?
Well, on the evening of June 5th, 2001, my sister Gloria and my nieces came to my house stating that there had been an argument at their home between Joanne and Sam.
So you have how many sisters?
4.
So some of your sisters came to you and told you
No,
that
just my one sister Gloria and my 2 nieces, which are Joanne's daughters.
told you that your sister, Joanna,
Correct.
had an argument with her boyfriend, and it had gotten physical.
Correct.
And what did they want you to do?
And they wanted me to call the cops.
Why
And-
couldn't they call the police?
Well, because they said that Samuel had pulled the cords from the phones at the house. So my sister asked me to call the police and have them sent over to their house.
You did that.
I did that, yes, correct.
And then what did you do?
And at that time, I left my sister and my nieces at my home, and I went to my sister's house. And upon arriving there, my sister was there, hysterical, and their house was wrecked because Samuel had broken stuff in their house. And the cops got there, and she gave her statement, and I told her that my sister and her other 2 children were at my home, and to get her, and I asked her if she wanted to go to my house to get some belongings together, come to my house, at which time we did. And
So Joanne came back to your house. Where's Joanne, by the way? That's you.
And when we got to my home, we sat down and talked about the incident, and she said that she was...
Why don't you step up here, please? Let me bring you back to June 5th. You had an argument with Mr. Randolph?
Yes. Well, it was between my sister and him, but I, got in it and I broke it up, because I didn't want them to argue, it's family.
Ultimately, you got into an argument
Yes.
with Mr. Randolph.
Yes.
Did it become physical?
No.
That's not true.
No, physical, no.
He did throw things around the house.
In the house, yeah, the house was messed up. But
All
it had
right,
nothing
so
to
it
do with
became
that.
physical. It wasn't just a verbal fight. It became physical. Did he rip the phone cord out of the wall?
No.
Well, then why would somebody have to
Well,
travel?
when I called David, I did tell him, that what was going on at the house and stuff. And I was probably the one that ended up calling the cops because I didn't want, for David to get there or for anything that, get any worse than it was already.
Joanne, I understand that you're sitting on this side of the table, which is the defendant's side. But I want to bring you back to June the 5th. Were you upset?
Yes, I was.
Were you frightened?
No.
Did you spend the night at your brother's house?
Yes, I did.
Why did you spend the night at your brother's house if you weren't free?
Early in the morning. I had to be at work at 4 in the morning.
So?
So I didn't want to be late. I wanted to go and get some rest before I had to go to work.
Joanne, let me explain something to you. You have to say things that make sense. What time do you go to work every morning?
At 4 in the morning.
4. And do you sleep at your brother's house every night?
No, I don't.
You sleep at your house every night?
Yes.
So on this particular night, you just told me you wanted to stay there because you didn't want to be late.
Because my kids were already at his house. I wasn't going to run my kids back home and then back over there. It was already late.
How long does it take?
Like 25 minutes.
He says it takes less, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, even if it takes 25 minutes, you take your kids home so that your kids are sleeping in their own bed. So you stayed at your brother's house because you were upset. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
All right. And your brother was going to take you to work in the morning?
Yes.
Did you have your own car?
Yes, I did.
Where was your car?
Gloria took it to go to the house.
So your car was at your brother's house?
Yes, it was.
And yet your brother took you to work the next day, which is when this incident happened.
Yes.
Why did your brother take you to work the next day instead of you driving yourself?
Because I was going to lend Gloria the car, that's why.
Is that why?
Yes.
Why did you take her to work?
Because she had the kids to go to school.
Why did you take her to work?
Because she said she was afraid of Samuel because he had threatened her, and we locked her vehicle in my garage, Your Honor.
You locked it in the garage, why?
Because he had been calling my home all that evening and passing by my house, and she said that she wanted to leave because of that fact, and I told her, don't worry, we'll lock your car in my garage, and I will take you to work in the morning.
Fine. And is that what you did?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened when you got there?
Upon arriving at Sam's Club, we saw his vehicle parked there, and Joanne got, started
You were
getting
at
hysterical.
the place 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, I was.
What were you doing there 4 o'clock in the morning?
I figured I'd go there earlier to try and resolve, see why she left, because the argument wasn't even between me and her.
She left, so you went there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
To talk to her to see why she was so caught up.
And what happened when you got there?
Well, when we got there, Joanne got off her car and she ran into her job. And
just a minute. When you got there, did you all see his car?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
She didn't go up to his car?
No, she did not.
Is that right?
Yes.
Why didn't you go up to his car?
Because I was going to work. I wasn't.
You mean you didn't?
I had 5 minutes to get in there, and I was not about to go and talk in the parking lot with my manager
waiting. Not even to say hello. Not even to say hello.
No, my manager's waiting for me at the door to go in. He closes the door after I get in.
All right, stop. You think I believe you? Do you think I believe you? Think anybody believes the story that you're giving me? You went into the place because you were at that moment afraid of him and didn't want any confrontation with him. That's why you ran into your place of business. Go ahead.
And after that, she ran into her job, and I went over to the car and I approached Samuel.
You went over to his car?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Barrientos, that's your first mistake. But let's take it from there.
Okay,
Getting out of your car and going over to his car was your first mistake. What happened when you got over to his car?
When I got to his car, I was telling him that why was he there stalking my sister and waiting for her at 4 o'clock in the morning, and why does he continue to bother my family? Why can't he just leave my family alone? And he said that he was not going to leave my sister alone, that it was his fiancée. And I said, no, she's not your fiancée. He said, yes, she is. And he continued arguing, and we continued arguing about the incident. I told him, look, Samuel, I told him, I'm tired of all the abuse you've been giving my sister. I mean, I've never gotten involved with you guys before, but this has gone too far, and, I'm just tired, and why don't you just move on and leave them alone? And he stated that he was not going to leave them alone, and that he had a gun in the car, and that he had a gun in the car which he was going to shoot me and my sister. And at that time, I gave my sister my cell phone to call 911, and when I turned over, he punched me, he got me by my shirt, and he slapped me into the corner edge of his door, at which time I dazed out, and he continued hitting me and threw me on the floor. He just continued hitting me on the floor. My sister came on, she yelled that she had called 911, at which time he got up and got in his car and left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I grabbed him by his shirt, I threw him against the car, he falls to the ground, and that's when the fight broke out.
Did you drive by his house at all that night?
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Barrientos says his sister's boyfriend, Samuel Randolph, assaulted him in a fit of rage. David says Samuel was stalking his sister.
What kind of injuries did you sustain?
I sustained an abrasion on my left cheek and on my knees and bruises on my shoulder.
Do you have any medical reports or photographs?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them, please. All right, Mr. Randolph, let me hear your version of the events, sir.
Okay. The night before the fight happened, I believe that was June 4th. Me and Gloria had got in an argument.
This is Gloria?
That's Gloria, yes. I came home from work that day, and Joanne's oldest daughter's boyfriend was there, and we began to talk. And he told me, you know what, when you're at work, Gloria's talking stuff about, she's talking to Joanne, telling her all kind of stuff, why she shouldn't be with you. And I was like, well, why did she say this? At the time, her and her family was staying with us. She didn't work, her or her husband, so I was supporting them. So later that night, her daughter and her boyfriend, they leave, and I confront Gloria. I was like, look, Gloria, if you're gonna be living here with me and everything, I'm gonna support you guys. Don't talk about me, and please, not behind. If you have anything to say, say it to me. Argument broke out between me and her. At the time, Joanne was asleep in the house. Me and Gloria were outside. Gloria goes in and wakes Joanne up, talking about, well, do you see what he's saying to me, that I'm gonna have to leave and all this and that. And Joanne wakes up. She was like, well, what's going on? Me and Gloria, we started arguing. Joanne broke us up. Joanne told Gloria to take the car and just leave.
Yeah, but you got upset, Mr. Randolph. You were throwing things around the house?
Not at that point.
At what point?
The argument had escalated outside, and when she left, I came back in and I hit a glass, and the glass shattered on the ground.
What else?
That was it. Wasn't nothing thrown. I didn't pull the phone cord out of the wall or nothing like that.
Well, what did you throw the glass for after she left?
I just ran. I was upset. I went in and I hit the glass. Just a stupid part of them.
Hit what glass?
It was a big glass mirror.
What did you break it with?
My fist.
Go ahead.
Me and Joanne started talking about the incident. I guess
talking or arguing?
Talking at the time. I was kind of ready. She was trying to calm me down. I was the one upset.
You were very upset.
Oh yeah, I was. After the police arrived, that's when David came back to the house. They asked Joanne, well, did she have anywhere to go for the night? And she said, yeah, I can go with my brother. So she went to her brother's house. I went to my mother's house.
Just a minute, but you started calling the house.
My mother called the house to speak to Joanne to see what was going on. At the time, David told her, don't effing call here no more. Okay, so we didn't call no more.
You didn't call?
No, I did not call.
Go ahead.
So the night went on. I went up, I left the house possibly about 3:15, meet her up there about 3:30. At the time, she hadn't arrived yet. I stepped outside of my car, and I seen her brother and Gloria pull up. And Joanne walks inside of her job, and she...
Did you call after her?
Yeah, I called her name out.
And what did she do when you called her name out?
She turned around and looked at me, and she walked right in the door. So I get back in my car and get ready to leave, and David approaches me. He gets out the car, yells at me, why in the F are you still messing with my family, this and that? And I look at him and like, look, this is getting out of hand. This has nothing to do with you. So I turn around and get back in the car.
When did you get out of the car? You didn't tell me you got out of the car.
When he approached me.
He approached you. You were still in your car.
Yeah, when he started, I thought he was just coming over to talk to me, so I got out the car. As soon as I got out the car, he started yelling at me.
All right, so he's yelling. Go ahead.
I go around to open my car door. He pushes me in the car, and then he slams the door on my leg.
Did you have injuries?
I had a little abrasion on my right knee.
Let me see.
The police report states that the officer seen that. I don't have no pictures or anything.
Let me see the police report. Go ahead. So he pushed you in the car, and he slams the door on your leg.
Right, my leg is still hanging out the door when he pushes me in the car. And he starts to walk back to his car. Well, I jump up, and I rush him.
Yeah.
You know, I grab him by his shirt, I throw him against the car, he falls to the ground, and that's when the fight broke out.
Okay. He pushed you into the car. What kind of car do you have?
It was a Cadillac at the time.
And then you said he slammed the door on your leg.
Right.
Bird, you know I'm not very good at these technical things, so I'm going to need your assistance. help work this out in my head. If you're in a car and somebody slams the door on your leg, you know, you get your leg caught in the door.
Right.
Would you step out a little bit over here? Could you show me where you think on your leg that car door might hit?
I mean, I'm 6'3", Judge. Difference of height, but if I fell in, it probably hit me around just below the knee.
And where do you think it might hit him?
Usually just below the knee, I would say about the calf area.
At the calf area?
Yes, yeah.
That's where it would strike me that it would hit you if the car door is slamming on your leg.
I don't know I don't know the exact time that I got cut, whether it was when he pushed me into the car or when we started fighting.
Right. So there wasn't an injury as a result of this door slamming on your leg, because the only indication here is that you had an abrasion to your right knee.
Right.
Now, if you're going into a car, it's your left side that's out of the car, not your right side.
I guess the abrasion happened when we were fighting then.
Then I guess it did. So you had no injury as a result of this alleged pushing into the car, right?
Right.
But he had some pretty serious injuries, sir.
I tried to walk away from the incident, yeah.
No, sir. You went there at 4 o'clock in the morning for a reason. Did you expect her brother to be there when she...
No, I did not.
Right. And she clearly didn't want to speak to you. Did you drive by his house at all that night?
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. Why didn't you stay in your house that night?
I know, I just went to my mother's house that night.
Right. So you were in your car. Because you could have stayed at your house. She wasn't there. You went to your mother's house and took a quick drive-by around his house before you got to your mother's house. So you were mad. And at 3:30 or 3:45 in the morning is not the time to have a discussion with her when she's going to work. You know that. Mr. Barrientos.
I also have one more thing to state.
Go ahead.
On that same week of this incident, my sister stated that she didn't want nothing to do with Samuel no more. And that same 2 days later, we went and I rented a truck. We took all her stuff out. We put it in storage. Some of it is stored in my garage. And she moved in with me, and she continued to live with me for the next 6 months.
Really?
Until they got back together.
Joanne, how come you didn't tell me that? I thought you just went to your brother's house so that you wouldn't be late for work the next day.
That was true. That's what you were asking me. That's why I answered you that.
So, and you decided to live there for 6 months? Hama?
Yes.
Let me give you a piece of advice, sir. Never get mixed up with somebody else's domestic situation. You see how they made up? They're like lovebirds again.
Right.
You're not talking to your sister's not talking to you. She's mad at Gloria. Gloria's mad at her because you got involved with her domestic situation, right?
Correct.
They're all smoochy-dutchy and lovey-dovey, right? And now the family is estranged all because you try to do the right thing. However, the wrong thing is to stick your nose in somebody else's business. It was the wrong thing for you to get out of your car and go over to Mr. Randolph that morning. You drop your sister off and you leave. That doesn't mean that you're entitled to be assaulted.
Correct.
And I believe that you were. Mr. Randolph, you got to watch your temper, sir. How long are you back together again?
It's been about a year.
And how long have you been together all told?
3 years.
How many times have you had the police out to your house?
3 times, about 3.
Why?
My temper.
Your temper.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever said to you that you should at least try anger management?
Yes.
Is there any reason why you haven't availed yourself of an anger management program?
No, not really.
Were you drinking at the time of this incident?
I had a beer earlier in the day.
So it's not alcohol related.
No.
It's temper related. You got to learn how to take care of that, sir, because you're going to end up hurting somebody else, or you'll end up having a heart attack and dying yourself. Neither one are very smart. In any event, on this case, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He got upset because I found knives, laying around the house, and his temper, I was afraid that one of these days he was going to go off and get a knife and stab my sister.
That's the way their family is. They're always in everybody else's business.
I had to get in and protect my sister. 1
minute they're talking behind your back, then when they see you, it's all buddy-buddy.
He just continues the abuse with her, and she just does not want to let go.
Let bygones be bygones. I'm not going home.
Production worker Diane Wofford is suing her ex-boyfriend, welder Ron Cox, for the return of her belongings. Ron is countersuing for the return of his truck.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 200 on the calendar in the matter of Wofford versus Cox. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Miss Wofford, you and the defendant, according to your complaint, had an off-again, on-again relationship for about 7 years.
Correct.
The last time it was off again, it is your claim that he came into the house and took all the property, half of which was yours. He says he got sick and tired of being tossed out with the clothes on his back over the 7-year period and decided that he was going to take the property this time because he paid for it and it's his. He's got a counterclaim for a truck that he purchased for $750 that he says was put in your name because he had some driver's license problems and you had the truck towed onto your property and he wants his truck back. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, why are you bothering me? Together on and off for 7 years, not married. You see, we don't have courts here for those people who choose just to live together. We have courts for people who are married and divorcing. You know, the property is either community property or it's property that is divided by equitable distribution. But you expect me to go back and figure out who bought what? Is that what you want?
No. No.
So what do you want?
I would like half of what was given, or half of what was ours.
Who bought it?
We bought it together. We shared all of our monies together.
Did you have a joint bank account?
No, we did not.
You mean you would see a TV and you would say, well, the TV is $500. Here's $250 and here's $250.
That's correct.
Show me. No, the burden is on her.
Okay.
Just listen to me. The burden is on her.
Okay. I would be more than glad to show you proof of receipts, but when he came into my house after the day he broke the restraining order, they took all the receipts. They took the contents of the file came. So I have no receipts. I have pictures of what the TV looks like. I have warranty cards on it.
Did you
That's
go
all
into
I
the
have
house after there was a restraining order filed against you?
I thought I was illegally served. I even called the courts. It was the next day. I went back and only took what things were mine.
Tell me what you took.
I took my TV, my camping gear, my skis, and things that my parents have given me over the years. Tin cans that we collect.
What else?
And my clothes. VCR that a friend of mine owed me $20, and he gave me his VCR instead because he didn't have the money to pay me back.
What else?
That's all I can remember.
Okay. Now, how long did you live in this apartment together?
About 5 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, a little over 5 years.
Did you sleep in a bed?
Yes, we did.
Did he take the bed?
No.
Did you sit on the couch? Shh. Did you sit on a couch?
Yes.
Did he take the couch?
No.
Did you eat on a table?
Yes.
Did he take the table?
Yes, he did.
Kitchen table?
Yes.
Did you take the table?
Yes. I just purchased it.
Just a second. Took the table. Take the chairs that went with the table?
There was 2 chairs with it.
2 chairs. Now let's go back to the living room. There's a sofa.
Yes.
Is there any chair in the living room?
There was 1 chair.
Did he take the chair?
Yes, he did.
Is that right?
The recliner chair that my mom gave me, yes.
Where did she
Gave us.
Did
My
his
mom
mother
never gave
give-
you anything.
Shh. Come on. Swafford. Did the recliner chair come from his mother?
Yes.
Is there a cocktail table in the living room?
Yes, there was.
Okay. And?
He took that also, which was a Christmas gift.
Just a second. Did you? You know, Mr. Cox, when I ask you what you took, you're
I'm
supposed to
sorry.
answer me, sir.
I'm a little nervous, that's all.
I don't care if you're nervous or not. You remembered your skis and you remember the $20 VCR. When I ask you what you took, you're supposed to tell me. How many pieces of furniture did you leave?
Everything that was hers. The couch. She has another kitchen table upstairs. All the 4 chairs that go to that kitchen table.
Just a minute. Is there another kitchen table in the house?
Yes, there was.
And did he leave it?
Oh, yes, he did.
Good. What else?
That was hers.
Oh, just a second. What else did you leave is what I want to know.
Her microwave, the microwave stand.
Okay, just a second. Was there a microwave in the house?
Yes.
And did he leave it?
Yes.
You see what I'm trying to get at, Miss Wofford, is the following. I have absolutely no intention of wasting my time in going through a bunch of ridiculous items of property. You now have a house. Your house has a bed to sleep in, a table and chairs to eat off of, a couch to sit on, right?
Yes, correct.
You have a microwave, and I assume an oven. Oven is kind of hard to take, but you have a microwave to warm things up in. And as far as I'm concerned, that's as much cooking as any natural person has to have. So you have a perfectly livable condition. And I have no intention of going through items like a table and 2 chairs. You got a table and 2 chairs. You got a table and 4 chairs. You got a couch. You took the recliner chair.
Okay, may I say something? There was personal items of mine that he took.
Like what?
When he took his clothes out of the closet, instead of looking, he just gathered them up like this. There was a ski jacket that was bought for me from my sister. The skis that he took that were given to me by my sister. There was several clothes, my fishing pole, my tackle box, the coffee table that was built for me by my son's friend. And here's a statement from him, from the agreement that him and Ron had on it.
Because I paid for it, that's why the agreement's...
No, that is not.
Well, maybe why don't you explain why we got another coffee table?
Listen to me. Listen to me.
I'm sorry.
Okay, now I want to go back to the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Who purchased the truck?
I did.
We did.
Ask her
Just a second.
Ask her who the owners were that I bought it from. She don't even know.
How much did the truck cost?
I paid $700 for it.
Where did you get the $700 from?
I made payments as I was working. Each payday I made payments on it because I couldn't pay $700 up front.
We made payments on it.
Just a second. How did you make payments on it?
Because my boss...
How?
Oh, out of my check.
Check or cash?
Cash.
Now, the rest of the money, sir, went for
food,
rent and gas and electric, and I assume that you paid those things together.
We did.
Is that right?
My checks usually paid all the bills and stuff because my checks were bigger than her amount because at the time she was only making minimum wage.
Okay, so your checks went to pay the household bills and her checks went for what?
To get through. She had a direct deposit. In the last 6-8 months, the year that we were together, her money was her money and mine was mine. More or less my money got through and I had to beg her for
That is not true whatsoever. That is not.
True.
Everything we had together was paid 50-50. He paid half the rent, I had paid half the rent.
Show
Electricity.
me.
I have some bills to show you that.
Show me.
I have no...
Did you pay your rent by check?
No, we paid it by cash. And can we get back
listen to me. Listen to me. Hey!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Can we talk about the restraining order he broke?
No.
Ma'am, what about the...
No!
And later today,
This is her signature, 213. No deposit. Price of the puppy, $500. No deposit. What are you, a Swiftie?
No, ma'am, that's her signature, ma'am.
No, it isn't.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diane Wofford says ex-boyfriend Ron Cox stole her belongings when he moved out of their apartment. Ron says Diane stole his truck.
Do you have a car?
Yes, I do.
What kind of car do you have?
I have the Toyota pickup and I have a Chevy...
No! What kind of car do you have?
I have a Chevy Cavalier that is
All right. Now, what year car is it?
It's a 90 Chevy Cavalier.
The time that the truck was purchased, were you driving the Chevy Cavalier?
Yes.
And what was Mr. Cox driving?
He wasn't driving anything at the time because he doesn't have a driver's license.
Okay. Bird, would you give me the title, please?
Can we talk about the restraining order he broke?
No.
Okay. Can we talk about his alcoholism?
You could talk about that with your children, but I'm not interested in it. I'm just interested in getting this. Sorry. I'm just interested in, right now, the truck. Okay. I see that this truck was purchased in two people's names. Is that right?
I purchased...
Is that right?
It is at the time, yeah.
All right. Now, Mr. Wofford, let me explain to you something, sir. While there is no equitable distribution or community property involved in people living together, when people choose stupidly to live together for 7 years or 5 years without benefit of marriage, I'm going to take the easiest way out for a court in determining who owns property. And as far as I'm concerned, this property is owned 50-50. Do you understand? You chose, for whatever reason, to put her name on the title.
I made that mistake.
You made a mistake. If you made a mistake, why should I have to suffer for it by extending this case any longer than I have to? Now, you paid $700 for the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Correct.
Very good. Now, Miss Wofford, are you driving this pickup now?
Yes, I am.
What happened to your Chevy?
It's broken. The
So you're driving it?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And do you drive it to work?
Yes, I do.
And I assume you want to keep it?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Then you will pay him on his counterclaim, $350. Your claim is dismissed. On the counterclaim, I'm awarding you $350, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Sign over the title.
What about all my stuff? What about my personal belongings that he has taken out of my home?
Sign over the title. Do we have a pen?
Your Honor, may I say something?
No.
Ma'am, what about the...
No! You're getting a truck, Miss Wofford, that in all probability you had nothing to do with paying for, and you're getting it at a bargain price. Do you understand?
I guess.
Do you understand? Worth at least as much as the fishing pole you say that he took. And that somebody's skis that... Did you sign it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, Bird, would you hand that over to Miss Wofford? And then, Bird, would you do me the last favor? Sure. Would you show them out?
Please excuse. You may step out.
This man came into my home, ripped me off. I have a restraining order about his alcoholism problems this man has had.
A whole relationship was abusive, both physically and mentally.
He's a nothing. He's a no good. He'll always be a no good.
22-year-old cashier Jamie Walker is suing his former roommate, 19-year-old cashier Josie Noble, for the return of his belongings and for defamation of character. Josie is countersuing for unpaid rent and bills.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 1 on the calendar in the matter of Walker versus Noble. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Walker, you and the defendant leased an apartment together. Is your claim that the defendant locked you out, she kept some of your property, and in addition, she showed around a private letter which caused you embarrassment?
Yeah.
The defendant says that you, in fact, broke the lease to the apartment. She is countersuing for your share of 4 months' rent. She said that she did not lock you out of the apartment. So when did you sign this lease?
It was September 22nd of 2001.
And how did you know the defendant?
I used to work with her, and we were friends.
So tell me when this problem started, around Christmas time?
It was around Christmas time, December 21st of 2001. I had received a phone call, 3 o'clock in the morning, from my mother, stating that she was sick and that she wanted me to come down there to be with her.
Where does she live?
She lives in Virginia.
Where is this apartment that you were living in?
It's in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The only thing I took with me was my clothes. A few days later, my mom got better, so I was going to come home, and I received a phone call from Josie stating that I am no longer allowed in the house because she thought I moved out.
How many days later?
It had to have been like 4 or 5.
In the month of December?
In the month of December.
No. Okay. Had you paid your share of December's rent?
Yes, I was paid up until January.
None of that is true at
Just
all.
a second, I'm going to get to you in a minute. All right, how much was rent?
It was $240. I paid $240 a month.
Josie, give me your version of what happened.
Let's see, December 20th, I spoke to him on the phone, and I asked him if he had his share of the rent money. And the whole month, I was letting him go with just giving me $40 a week, and we'll just take it up from there, and he'd make it up to me at the end of the month. And when I talked to him, he said that he spent his share on presents. And I never once said that he could never come back to the apartment.
Let's just get to, you're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself. Now, what happened? He said he left December 21st. What happened?
He left in the night. I never heard a phone ring at 3 a.m. I would have woken up. He would have woken up.
Well, who's he?
He is my my ex-boyfriend. He was there at the time.
Okay, I don't care whether you heard a phone or you didn't hear a phone. You woke up December 21st, and
I woke up. Well, he woke up to go wake Jamie up to go to work, and he found this note that Jamie left.
Can I see it, please? Did you write this letter?
No, I did not. That is not my writing.
Oh my God.
I have very sloppy writing. That is not my writing.
Do you have any other writing of the...
I have the copy of the lease that he signed, and I don't know about that.
Well, but he's printing this.
There should be a signature one right above my signature.
Oh, I see. Yes, you're right. I think you wrote this.
I did not write it.
I think you wrote this. Mr. Walker, I'm just looking at the way you not only signed your name here, but printed it on your lease. It's exactly the same as the printing on this. Yes, it is. Okay. So you left.
Yes.
What items do you claim that Miss Noble kept of yours?
Well, she has A computer?
Well, you wrote here the computer is yours too. You can have my last paycheck. Give this to Dawn as proof. And you also wrote the computer is yours too.
I did not give her the computer.
Well, that's what you wrote, sir.
But I didn't write that, I'm saying.
Oh, I think you did.
Well, she has a desk of mine too. A bed. She has some books, CDs.
And when did you try to get back into the apartment, Mr. Walker?
It was right after I got back.
Okay. And you're on the lease?
Yes, I am.
Then you should have been let back into the apartment. Did you go to the police?
No, I didn't know I could.
Of course you did. If you have a lease to an apartment, you're on the lease.
The landlord wouldn't let me back in there either.
No, you go to the police. Put your hand down. I didn't ask for you. You know that you can go to the police if you're locked out of your apartment. Come.
And they had the locks changed too.
So what? The police go, they knock at the door, they say he has a lease to the apartment, he has the absolute right to be here, to be to the apartment. You were ready to go home in a couple of days. You go home. So I don't believe you, sir.
He didn't go to Virginia. I have a receipt from my cousin who sent him money while he was in York, PA. I
don't care where he went. I don't believe him. You want to tell me the second part of your lawsuit, sir? Second part of your lawsuit is about a letter.
Yes. Miss Noble had gone through my room with all my stuff, and she had found a personal letter of mine, and she had given it to one of our co-workers, and in which in turn that co-worker had took that letter and spread it around work and customers too.
Tell me about that letter.
After he left that note, we waited a little while. He cleaned out the room, Jamie's room, and we found this little red binder that said, "Don't go through it." So we're going to go through it.
Of course.
And he found the letter, handed it to me, I read it, got a kick out of it, and the girl that I showed, he was going around saying that he slept with her, telling nasty stories about her, and it's like, she wasn't my best friend, but she was like a coworker, and it's affecting her reputation. So we invited her over, we showed her the letter, she said, "Can I keep it?" And I didn't care. And she kept it, gave it back, I don't know what I did.
That's why, Mr. Walker, if you honestly wanted to get back into your apartment, and I don't know where you went, because you had valuable things in there, things that you didn't want shown around, that's why you go to the police and you get all your stuff. When for the first time did you decide to get back your stuff?
It was right after I got back.
No.
Which was what month?
December.
In December?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do?
I called her and
So what did you do? Did you go to court in December? Did you go to court in January or February? What'd you do?
No, I waited because she said she was going to take me to court first. And I never got anything back, so I filed the case.
Why should you? Listen to me.
Because she said she was going to.
Mr. Walker, you're not an unintelligent person, are you?
No.
You're locked out of your apartment, you go to the police, you say, "I have to get my stuff, my computer, my private stuff." I went away in the middle of the night to help take care of my ailing mother.
He was never locked out. I didn't get the locks changed until about a month ago.
Not even like 2 weeks ago.
What happened was he left a note in my mailbox telling me to call him on a cell phone number, and I told him, "Why don't you just give me like $500 and I won't go to the cops and I won't go do all this stuff so I can get the rest of my money back, because I really wanted to avoid this."
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It doesn't give her the right to spread it around work. That's my personal information.
I showed a girl that you lied about.
And later today...
Show me. Well, what do you think you were coming here for? Waltz lessons?
No.
Show me where you had paid off the bills.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jamie Walker says former roommate Josie Noble owes for the return of his belongings. Jamie also says Josie defamed his character.
Go ahead.
May I say something to that?
Who are you?
I'm Sarah, Jamie's friend. He's staying with me at the current moment.
Sure.
On the date that Miss Noble is talking about, when she had called, it is my cellular phone. She was really rude to me, ranting and raving about different things, saying that she was going to harm Jamie and that she was going to have people after him.
What did she say she wanted?
She wanted to talk to him. She wanted to talk to him now, and I said, "Well, he's unavailable at this moment." He had called her back, and they had talked about it for a couple hours, and
I was at work for a couple hours.
It was like an hour, approximately an hour.
Yes.
They had worked out to where she had said that he could not come get his things. She had also called me before on my cellular phone telling me that, wondering where he was at, and told me that he was not allowed to get his things and that they were hers now.
That was not what was said on the phone at all. At all. I called there and...
Whatever. I don't know what this letter said. I don't have this letter, unless somebody has a copy of the letter. Do you have a copy of the letter?
I have proof that it was about, you know, what it entailed.
And it was left in your house?
It was left in the apartment, yes.
Right, which I find that you left.
But that doesn't give her the right to spread it around work.
No,
That's
no.
my personal information. May I say something?
I showed a girl that you lied about.
You
Yeah,
may
she
not.
spread
It
it.
doesn't lend anything. Neither did her statement lend anything, but I thought maybe it might.
I was there a lot, like around through everything that happened, so.
Spare me, would you please? He is suing for the following: for the return of his property. What personal property? A computer?
A computer?
A desk?
A desk? A
You have his
bed?
desk?
He doesn't have a desk. All there was a little nightstand thing.
It's a stand.
And a bed. And a couple books were left.
Fine. Where are those things?
The stand is still in the apartment, the bed is still in the apartment, and the books are still there.
Great.
I have my
Great.
videos too, and my CDs.
What about his movies?
There
and CDs?
are no CDs. There's probably like 2 movies I think I still might have, but no CDs.
Okay. So what I'd like you to do is get the boyfriend to help you pack up his bed, his little nightstand, his books, and his videos. Pack them up. Put them out on the front of the house 5 days from today's date. He has 3 hours, from 12 to 3. If you're not there between 12 and 3 to get your bed, your nightstand, your books, and your videos, she has the right to get rid of them. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now let's get to the issue of the rent.
Okay.
You left the premises, and I find that you had no reason to leave the premises. Even if she locked you out, you had the right to get back in there, and I don't find that she locked you out of the residence. So from the time you left in December until the time she found a roommate, you are responsible for half your rent.
Can I say something on that?
Yes.
Her ex-boyfriend now, he was living with us from the time that he moved, or that we moved into the apartment, until the time that I left. And after that, I know he was still staying there, as I know of.
When you moved in September, was he living there?
Yes.
So that you knew he was living there?
Yes.
So?
But
that was your arrangement in September. He didn't move in afterwards, right?
Right.
So stop complaining. You have to pay until she... Who was your new roommate?
She just recently moved out. She was my cousin's cousin.
And how many months did she live there?
4 months.
When did she move in?
Or 3 months.
When did she move in? I don't need her name.
March.
So the month of January and February, is that right? He wasn't there, and then you had a roommate in March. Is that right?
Because he was gone for 4 months before I got her to move in.
Doesn't sound right. $480 is what you owe her. Do you understand?
Yes.
However, we're holding the $480 until you get your property, which is going to be on the order. Do you understand?
I think she might have only been there for 2 months or...
Fine.
So
that's still only 2 months. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. I don't care whether you agree with it or not. Do you understand it? That's all.
But he was...
maybe I shouldn't have waited to go visit my mother.
He's such a liar, and so is she. Nothing but a bunch of little lies, and I'm so glad that they're out of my life.
Homemaker Horace Welch and his girlfriend, homemaker Lakeisha Webb, are suing their neighbor, home care worker Juanita Mack, for stealing a backpack that contained expensive rings. Juanita is countersuing for slander.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 331 on the calendar in the matter of Walsh Webb versus Mack. Vice sworn in judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Walsh, for some reason which you will explain to me, you were visiting the defendant. You're a neighbor of hers?
Yes.
And you had with you a backpack.
Yes.
It's your claim that you left the backpack in her house, and she refuses to give it back to you.
Yes.
And within that backpack, among other things, were your girlfriend's jewelry, rings and diamonds and valuables that you alleged that you were taking to be cleaned?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So you're suing her for $2,000, the return or value of the property. The defendant says she doesn't know what devil you're talking about, that you came into her apartment to use her phone, you didn't leave anything there, and she's counterclaiming because she said you and your girlfriend have been going all over town calling her a thief, among other things. How long have you been her neighbor, Mr. Walsh?
For 7 months.
Okay, and how long have you been living there, Miss Mack?
Since '98.
Is this an apartment building?
Yes.
Now, on what date do you claim you were visiting Miss Mack?
This was like the 22nd
Well, prior to this incident, I visited her several times on
No, he hasn't.
different occasions.
What were you visiting her for?
We were just hanging out, talking, having drinks.
You were friends?
Yes.
Did you become friends before or after you moved in?
After.
You didn't know her before?
No.
So you've known her for about 7 months?
As a matter of fact, I've been seeing her for about 7 months. I've only known her for about, 2.5 months.
What do you mean you've been seeing her?
Seeing her as a neighbor, speaking to her as a neighbor.
Okay, but it's been 2.5 months that you've been going there occasionally and hanging out?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Talk to me.
On the 22nd, I was over her house. It was a Sunday.
22nd of?
September.
Go ahead.
It was a Sunday. I didn't know at the time that I had a warrant out for my arrest, which when I left her house, I got picked up on that warrant.
For what?
It was just something personal with me and my family. Something me and my family is going through. Like what? A domestic violence.
Okay. So you were arrested on the 22nd of September, right?
Yes.
After you left her house?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, I left my things there.
This is the day that you allege that you left this backpack there?
My backpack and my CD bag as well, yes.
Let's go step by step. You went in to visit.
Yes.
How long did you stay?
I was there for several hours.
What were you doing?
We were just hanging out talking.
And then it was time for you to leave?
No, it wasn't time for me to leave. I told her I'd be back. I stepped out for a minute.
What did you step out for?
To go home.
To go home for what?
To go home and see my family, just to go home. I had seen my daughter and I was worried about her and I went home. But in the process of me going
Just
home...
a second.
Yes.
How old was your daughter?
17 months.
When you left your home, or where was your daughter?
I never left home. I was always hanging out with her until I left. That's when I got arrested.
What do you mean you went to see about your daughter?
I went to go check on my daughter.
Who was with her?
Her mother.
The same mother that was having you arrested for domestic violence?
That one.
Raise your hand if that person is in the room today.
Right here. But I don't...
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going, sir.
Basically, I went to
Basically,
jail.
I'm not getting the whole story, and I want to tell you something. When I don't get the whole story, that is not a good thing for you. So let's go. You his wife?
No.
His girlfriend, the mother of his 17-month-old?
Yes.
You were having him arrested for domestic violence, is that right?
Yes.
He's next door hanging out with the neighbor, according to him, and in his possession is a backpack containing all your jewelry. Is that right?
Yes.
That you were taking to have cleaned.
Yes.
You understand what I mean when I'm not getting the whole story? Stupid isn't written here, sir.
I had already had...
Stupid is not written here.
Oh, God.
Keep going. I love it as we make it up as we go along. So you got the jewelry that's in the backpack that you're taking to have clean that belongs to your girlfriend who was in the process of calling the police to have you arrested.
That's...
Keep going. Keep going. So you go and you check up on your 17-month-old daughter, and what happened? You got arrested.
I got arrested.
Next.
I called Juanita from jail and told her that I was arrested to give my things to my mother because I knew she wouldn't give them to her.
You knew she wouldn't give them to her.
I knew she wouldn't give them to my girlfriend.
Why not?
Because she told me she wouldn't.
What do you mean she told you she wouldn't?
She told me, I'm not giving nothing to her. I'll give it to your mother or your son or somebody else.
Why is that?
Because she didn't want to give it to her.
Why?
Judge, I don't know.
Because she was afraid I was going to find out what was going on between them two.
Oh.
Anyway.
Shh.
So my mom called her.
What were you doing with her jewelry?
Like I said, I was taking to get it clean. I had it for a couple of days in my backpack, though. Okay. All right.
Get it.
It was Judge.
Go ahead.
My mom called her, talked to her. My mom told me, yeah, she said she would be willing to meet me to give me your backpack. And so when my mom did finally get back with her, she started saying she didn't know what she was talking about. I've never been to her house before, and all this started coming up.
So, keep going.
So I went and did a small claims because, I mean, a lot of my personal things was in my backpack, which I'm taking a major loss on.
What were you doing in her house?
Like I said, we've been hanging out.
You've been hanging out. Have you been intimate with her?
No.
Well, she seems to think you've been intimate.
Well, of course she's going to think that.
Of course she's going to think that. You were just hanging out. Couldn't you find someplace else to hang out? Huh?
I mean, we had just moved out there. I don't know anyone.
They were having domestic violence problems, entertaining our neighbors in the community. On the 26th, me and Miss Webb had a verbal altercation. It was me, my daughter was out there, and this lady sitting here, and several other little kids.
What was the fight about?
Because he said that he gave me his backpack. One day, I say around mid-September, he did ask me if he could use my phone because he was locked out of their house. And I had seen him coming and going. I brought my phone out to the front porch and let him use the phone. He's never been inside my house, ma'am. The night before, when we had the altercation, me and her, the next morning, I get up to go to work. I work 2 jobs. My tires were slashed. Both our tires were slashed. Both mine and Miss Webb's tires were slashed. And I have the police report right here. This is a log of my caller ID log from my phone, all the numerous of calls that I've been receiving from them, from her phone number, from the phone booth, and how many times the housing authority told me that if he can prove that I have their backpack, that he would evict me. So I'm worried about losing my housing because of a lie that he told this girl. And I had to have my phone number changed within 3 days of each other because of the calls from them.
Okay, now, Miss Webb, how long have you been with him?
5 years.
In the 5 years that you've been with him, how many times has he been in jail?
Twice.
When?
Ooh, a year ago.
For how long?
For a year.
For what?
Possession.
Of what?
Of controlled substance, marijuana.
I'll leave it with the possession of controlled substance. Okay? That I believe.
Okay.
When else was he in jail?
And domestic violence.
What does he do for a living?
At the time, he's not working.
When was the last time he had a full-time job, 9 to 5?
A month ago.
And how long did he have that job for?
About 2 weeks.
When was the last time he held a job for more than 3 months? 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Right before he went to jail a year ago.
So how does he support himself? Want to tell me that?
He gets a check.
He gets a check from what?
From the state.
What's the nature of his disability?
That I don't know. Mental, I don't know. You have to ask him that, why he get the check.
Yo, why do you get a check?
For a mental.
For what?
Just have problems, Your Honor. But I would like to say something.
Yeah.
I do have a surprise witness that will let you know.
I'm here.
That
I'm
will
ready.
let you know.
I'm ready.
That will let you know that we've been knowing each other for some time.
Fine. Bring in the witness.
Thank you.
The person's name?
My mom, Joan Walsh.
She had a conversation with her on the phone, and at the time they had a conversation, she said she will return her items. And at the...
Bring her in.
Walsh?
Your Honor.
Just a minute.
Oh, okay.
All right, you sir.
Miss Walsh, how long do you know the defendant, Miss Mack?
I don't.
How many times have you met her?
Never.
Never seen her in person except for today?
Never.
Did you ever speak to her on the phone?
Yes, I did.
Who called whom?
She called me on the 18th of September and on the 22nd of September.
Okay, and what did she say to you on the 18th of September?
That she was a friend of my son's. She asked me, was he there? I asked her who was calling, because I'm the mother of 6 adult children. I don't answer any questions. And I asked who was calling. Oh, I'm a friend. I'm the one that he's been over my house. And at that time, she told me her name was Regina. And then the following Sunday when she called me, she said Regina again at first. But
Yes.
I let her know that I was speaking with my son on the other line. And she said, well, I just finished talking to him, and he wants me to give you his belongings. I said, what are the belongings? She told me 2 bags. And I said, okay. I said, well, can you call me back because I'm speaking with my son, and I don't know how long he can remain on the phone. And I spoke with him about 20 minutes. And when I hung up, no one else had called me, and I started 69 her back. And I let her know how I had called her. And I asked her when could we meet so I can get my son's belongings. And she told me she would call me back. And when I talked back with her, she told me that she didn't know nothing about it. That she didn't know him or anything. Was her words. Then a couple of days later, I had gotten her number, and I called her on the 25th. And asked her.
Where did you get her number from?
From my son.
Well, I thought you said you star 69 the number.
That Sunday.
I understand that.
Yeah, that Sunday. But
Just a second, but I understand that. But that was a person who identified themselves as a person by the name of Regina.
I know, but when I click back over from my son,
yes,
he told me who she was, and then I told her.
He told you, but she said, or the person who called you said their name was Regina.
I know. And
twice, both times that the person called. Her name's not Regina.
I know, but what I'm saying is when I click back over to let my son know that she was on the other line, this is when he said, not Regina, Mom, he said Juanita. And when I clicked back over, and she just said yes, and a couple of days later, she said, oh, Regina's my friend down the road or something, you know.
Did you speak to her on the phone?
No, ma'am. Never.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He told your story. I don't believe that you're in the process of having him arrested for domestic violence and he's schlepping your jewelry to a jeweler to have it cleaned. That's the first lie. Everything else after that is downhill.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Horace Walsh is accusing neighbor Juanita Mack of stealing a backpack that contained his girlfriend's jewelry. Horace says he was taking the jewelry to get cleaned.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
This is where she starts 69 at, the highlights when she called her.
You're talking about the September 22nd call where they don't have a full number, just a 521?
Yes.
Am I correct?
That's when I started her back. They put the little stars on there.
So they put the little stars there so that you can't tell what the number is. Is that right?
No, so I can't call her. Yes.
That's all I want to know. Am I correct? That you cannot tell, or am I reading this right? You cannot tell what number she starts 69. Is that right?
Can't tell the last 4 digits.
And then on the 25th of September,
yes,
your son gave you her number. Is that right?
No, he gave it to me on the 24th, and I called
or
her
the
on
24th?
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
Then also, can I say something?
Sure.
I have a card from the case management at the housing where we live, where he was calling the housing, and they informed me where he was and where my stuff was, because they said they have seen him come in and out her house.
You can't tell me what they said.
Well, she just...
You can't tell me what they said. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Listen to me. I don't believe his story that he had your jewelry in a backpack because he was taking it to have it cleaned. That's the first lie. Everything else after that is downhill. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Because he was taking it to be cleaned.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that you're in the process of having him arrested for domestic violence and he's schlepping your jewelry to a jeweler to have it cleaned.
But this happened some weeks ago.
What I'm telling you is I don't believe that part of his story. And he said it to me with the same straight face as he's telling me the rest of it. I don't know whether she has your property or not. How am I supposed to tell? How am I supposed to tell? His mother never saw this person. His mother never saw her. Maybe he went to somebody else's house whose name is Regina, who lives 3 doors away. How do I know that?
And then also...
And she doesn't know that either because she never met her.
But then also when we was arguing, her daughter was yelling, that's why he was over here. You should keep your man on a leash. And...
So? He told your story. He told your story. You better stop talking about her. That's not accomplishing anything. Are you living in the same place?
Yes.
Well, you know, you want to make your lives miserable or you want to make your lives reasonable?
I don't even talk to her. She the one goes out telling the neighbors what we're going through. The neighbors didn't know nothing about it until she's outside performing in front of the neighbors.
Let me ask you this question. What are you going through with him?
Nothing. With us.
With us, no, she's going around telling the neighbors
about
our situation, our case, where we're going through. We going to court and all that.
So, going to court for what?
What we're here for.
What we're here
you mean this case?
Yeah.
So you don't tell anybody that she's a thief?
We haven't said anything about her.
I haven't said anything to anybody about it.
Did you advise the housing authority that she had in fact stolen your property?
Well, the housing authority contacted me and told me where my belongings was. I didn't know nothing about it because when he left my house, that's when the police picked him up. And then that's when the housing authorities called me and told me he's been at Juanita's Mac house, because that's where he's been calling from.
How do they know? The housing authority told you that your stuff was there because she told them that, and then she denies it to the housing authority? You don't know. Listen, I don't know where your stuff is, and I don't know where your jewelry is, quite frankly. I don't know. I can't decide whether or not she has your stuff. His story doesn't make any sense to me at all. His story, totally senseless. Doesn't have a ring of truth to it from the very beginning. So how am I supposed to take pieces of it that I don't believe and put together with pieces that I do believe to determine that she's a thief, that she took your property and won't return it? And I don't believe that in that bag was your jewelry on the way to the jeweler to have it steamed. Don't believe it. So your case is dismissed. Now, as far as your counterclaim is concerned, I have no idea whether or not she's been torturing you and harassing you. If she has been, I suggest you file a criminal complaint.
Well,
listen to me. I suggest if she has been harassing you on the telephone, that is a felony, that you file a criminal complaint. Do you understand?
Yes.
The two of you live together in the same complex. If you want to make each other's lives and your family's lives miserable, you'll continue to do so. If you file a criminal complaint, and if there is a hearing, and if either one or both of them are convicted of harassing you, you certainly have leave to come back to any small claims court and file a civil complaint. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Pretty much satisfied as long as the harassment and everything ceased to assist.
I have no thoughts, man.
Wrong place, wrong time. Trying to be a nice neighbor.
Jewelry and personal items.
I don't have this man's backpack or any of their belongings.
Would you like to see the list?
He is a pathological liar.
I knew what he was doing. He was taking them to be clean. Because I asked him to.
They put on performances for the neighbors with their domestic violence situations. She has even stabbed this man outside in the yard.
Once he went to jail and she wouldn't return the stuff.
He should have told her the truth in the first place, which he didn't. And that got me involved.
Yeah, that's created this whole thing, man.
My tires were slashed. I have phone records of them calling me, saying all kind of nasty things to me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I created this whole thing. Let's roll.
Stay blessed.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Moore versus Muhammad. Step forward, please.
Pharmacy technician Tracy Moore is suing her ex-boyfriend, private detective Busharat Muhammad, for an unpaid loan to get his car out of the shop. Busharat is countersuing for medical bills as the result of Tracy's harassment.
Miss Moore, you claim a loan, a small one, of $200 to the defendant who at some point was a boyfriend of yours.
Yes.
Mr. Mohammed says there was never a loan. You did, in fact, give him $200, which is the amount you're suing for, but that was for work that he was doing for you in his capacity as a private investigator. Mr. Mohammed has filed a counterclaim alleging that because you harassed him for this $200 over a long period of time, he developed an ulcer, and he would like you to pay some $2,000 for his medical bills. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you meet him, and when did you give him the $200?
I met him at the end of July in 2002. I loaned him the $200 on September 2nd in the agreement that he was going to pay me back.
September 2nd?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you start to date him? Were you dating him in July and August?
You could say that, yes.
What do you mean? I don't want to say that. I want to know if you want to say that.
Sorry. It was more of he starting to take control of me and was making me call him all the time, and so I guess he was claiming me as his girlfriend, yes.
I don't know what that
means. Your Honor, she's lying. That's why she can't even tell the court straight what's going on.
I'm going to get to you in a second. Did you go out to dinner together?
No, ma'am.
Did you go to a movie together?
No, ma'am.
Did you go visit a park together?
No, he was always...
A zoo?
No.
I don't want to hear anything. Did he come to your house?
Yes.
For dinner?
No, ma'am.
Did you have an intimate relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about this $200 in September.
He asked me to loan him $200 so he can get his car out of a shop.
Tell me where you were when you had this discussion.
In my apartment.
And exactly what did he say to you?
He asked me if he could borrow the $200 so he can get his car out of the shop, and that he would pay me back within 2 days when he got his money. And then he took me to the bank to cash my check, and that's when I gave him the $200.
And what happened on September 2nd? After that, you didn't see him anymore?
He didn't come over, and I would try and call him, and he told me to stop harassing him, and he would hang up on me.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mohammed, let me hear you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, Your Honor, we never dated. We had a friendship, but we never dated. That's why she couldn't get it straight. I never told her my car was in the shop. She came to me. She said that her mother was trying to...
Just a second. She came to you where?
Well, we were at her house talking.
So you were at her house?
Exactly.
She didn't come to you?
No, we were at her house.
You went to her house?
I went to her house to visit her.
Go ahead.
She said that her mother was her mother was really upset. And I said, about what? And she said, well, because she is trying to get money from her ex-husband, trying to garnish his wages. I said, well, I did investigation part-time before. If you want me to try to help you, I can save her a lot of money by taking her down to the court places where you could buy the paperwork, show her how to fill the paperwork out. She could do it herself.
You were going to take her to the courthouse?
No.
To where?
I have a client of mine that owns a store where he sells paper, you know, the packets that show you how to file on landlord disputes and certain things, small things, individual.
So you were going to take her to the store?
Yes, ma'am.
And get her the right set of forms?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
And she said, yes. She said, well, I told her, well, for a flat fee of $200, I would do that. Ms. Moore said, I'll give it to him when I get my check in the mail.
Okay, so that's what you say it was for. You took her to the bank, she gave you the $200.
Exactly.
And that was on what date, sir?
That was around September the 7th or 8th.
Okay. Now, when did you take her mother to the store?
I never did.
You never did?
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what you were supposed to do, according to your answer, Mr. Mohammed, for the
Exactly.
$200.
Exactly.
So you didn't do what you had said you were going to do.
No, ma'am. I didn't.
Why not?
Because I tried to contact her mother 3 days in a row. In fact, after I got the money the next day, I called her. I said, look, we need to try to get down there and take her to the stationery
Okay,
store.
so you didn't get together with the mother, so keep going.
So she called me about 2 days later and said, I want the money back.
Right.
I said, I don't have it right now. I said, my thing was to help your mother. She said, well, I need the money. She said, because I got to pay bills and feed my children. I said, well, I don't have it right now. She said, well, you better get it.
You're a hustler.
I'm a hustler.
You're a hustler.
I'm about as much hustler
You're a
as you
hustler.
are.
You're a hustler, Mr. Mohammed. Let me tell you why you're a hustler. Because I read your answer very carefully. Let's understand what you've just testified to before I get to it. You said to me that this was not a loan.
Right.
This had nothing to do with your car.
Exactly.
You said to... Don't agree with me, sir. You said to me that you were having a discussion with her. She said her mother needed to do some work to get some alimony or support from her ex-husband. You had a friend who had a stationery store. You were going to take her mother down there and make sure she got the right forms. That's not something that costs $200.
No,
let me finish. I'm finishing now, but that's what you were going to do. And then, for one reason or another, within a day or two, you realized that this wasn't going to come about. You weren't going to take her mother down to get the forms, and therefore you had done nothing so far. Nothing for that $200. Now, let me read from your answer, sir. In August, she hired me to do some investigating on her mother's ex-husband. I made them a deal that I would do the work for a flat fee of $200 up front. I got started on the case. What case? Going to your friend's store? In any case, I started the work, and the few days I put in on the case are worth more than $200. That's what you swore to. You did nothing. Nothing. So, why didn't you give it back to her?
Because she had people coming over to where I live at, threatening me on the phone.
Why didn't you just give her back the $200 or say to her,
because she
I'm
never
sorry,
said,
Miss Moore, I shouldn't have spent it before I did anything, but I
told her
spent
that.
it.
I told her that.
Did you tell her you would give it back to her?
I did tell her that.
Did you tell her when?
I told her to give me a couple of weeks.
So why, Mr. Mohammed, did you swear to, in your statement to me, that you had already done work on the case? Why didn't you just say, I told her that I would give her back her money, just give me 2 weeks, I didn't have it. Why didn't you write that in your answer?
Because I did tell her that. I did tell her I would give her the money back.
You didn't tell that to me.
Even though I initially had started, even though I contacted her 3 days in a row to contact her mother. I even met with her mother. Her mother came by and I talked to her mother.
You getting the whole thing?
I went to her house and talked to her mother.
You're getting the whole thing, right? All right, let's get to your counterclaim. So she bothered you. She called you 50 times a day.
No, she's sending people over to my house threatening me with terroristic threats, physical violence.
And that gave you an ulcer?
That's not how you go about getting your money.
That gave you an ulcer?
Well, what gave me ulcer was deciding, well, should I kill these people for threatening me over $200? Or should I try? Because people don't understand. Little small things start great wars. And these people were threatening me with physical violence about $200. I'm not no punk or pushover. So if they got to bring a life to take a life, my point is that they come to take my life, I'm going to take theirs, even if it's about $200.
Good. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. Man, wait here.
The woman that's threatening to send people over and threatening me with physical violence, did she get into court acting like she's an innocent victim?
The only time I sent anyone to his house was when he said he had the money, but he had no way to get to my house.
She could have stopped the terroristic threats.
That was his main excuse. I don't have a ride.
Rule number one when dealing with the devil is don't.
I have not loaned anybody money since that day, and I won't do it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bowles versus Mitchell. Step forward, please.
24-year-old student Crystal Bowles is suing her former friend, 23-year-old waitress Tiffany Mitchell, for the return of a laptop computer. Tiffany says Crystal gave her the computer a year and a half ago.
Miss Bowles, Miss Mitchell was a friend of yours. You claim you loaned her a computer. She refuses to give it back. Miss Mitchell says it was a gift.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you known her?
I've known Tiffany since I was 10 years old, about 14 years.
Okay, so you've known her a long time.
Yes.
And when did you loan her this computer? Month and year?
February of 2001.
So a long time ago. And why did you loan her the computer?
She had enjoyed being on my desktop computer. I lived with her for a short period of time and...
Lived with her in her home?
Yes.
For how long?
30 days.
Were you between homes when you lived with her?
Yes.
Did she charge you rent?
Yes.
She did, for the 30 days? What did she charge you?
I believe it was $200.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. My boyfriend was the one that charged her.
Okay, so you lived there for 30 days. She enjoyed working on your computer, and?
And when I moved out, I agreed that she could use my laptop computer for $20 a month. I was still paying on the computer, and that was the minimum payment.
You'd bought the computer on time?
Yes.
How much was left on it when you moved out in February of 2001?
Around $500.
So you paid off the computer $20 a month?
Yes, that was my minimum payment.
Okay. Now, she had the computer for a long time.
Yes.
How come you wanted it back a year and a half later?
I started going to school again, and I'm taking 2 internet classes, and I need a laptop computer for the internet classes, like when I'm not at home. I can just hook in.
Between February of 2001 and 2 months ago, had you ever asked for the computer back?
No.
Had you ever complained to her that she hadn't made the payments?
No.
So let's hear the story. She says you want the computer for your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
No. I need it for myself.
All right, Miss Mitchell. Let me hear your version of these events.
Okay. I received the computer, as she said, in February, and I haven't heard anything all the way until recently, 2 months ago. We were talking on the computer, and she says, I don't know how to say this, but my boyfriend needs the computer for school. He's taking classes. And I said, but I thought you gave it to me. She goes, well, I let you use it. And I was like, for a year and a half you let me use it? You didn't ask for it back since? And I was like, well, at least until I can get another computer, I'll give it back to you. But until then, I'm like, I pay payments on it to get the internet service, and plus it's kind of broke right now. It has duct tape all wrapped around it, and I told her that it's not really usable. It don't prop up or anything.
So, Miss Bowles, I'm going to ask you the question again. Do you need the computer, or does your boyfriend need the computer?
I need the computer.
Do you have a boyfriend who also needs a computer?
No.
Why would she say that you wrote her an email indicating, I don't know how to tell you this, but my boyfriend needs a computer? Why would she say that?
Because me and Tiffany are very close friends, and I was worried that she would get upset with me for asking for the computer back because I know how much she enjoys it.
Well, because you gave it to her. Yes, you did. Sure you did. When you left, you had another computer. Is that right?
Yes.
When you left, you had another computer, and you weren't using this laptop. You said, here, take this one. It's old, and I don't use it.
I'm a full-time college student. I'm a single mother. I wish I had the abilities to give my friends laptops, but I don't.
You gave her one. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I did not give her the laptop.
I was told that it was just sitting there collecting dust, and at least it'll get some use.
My full intention was for her to pay me.
It's really a broke computer. Nobody can really use it anymore.
I hope that we can still be friends.
I'm pretty sure me and her will go back to being friends again because we've been friends for so many years.
I hope this can just be water under the bridge.
It's pretty stupid, I guess, to argue about it.
Don't loan friends computers.
Get it in writing. That way you know for sure if it's yours to keep or not to keep.
Legal assistant Robbie Gibbs is suing her former babysitter, 16-year-old Clarissa Thompson, and her parents Ethel and Paul Thompson. Robbie says, while babysitting her children, Clarissa ran up her phone bill. The Thompsons are countersuing for their daughter's unpaid babysitting fees.
Order. All rise. This is case number 79 on the calendar in the matter of Gibbs versus Thompson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Gibbs, the defendant's daughter, I assume this young lady.
Yes.
It's a babysitter for you.
Briefly, yes.
And your lawsuit wants her parents to pay for the following, because she's a minor.
Correct.
She ran up a phone bill from your house?
Mm-hmm.
So you want them to pay for the phone bill?
Correct.
And you want a return of the money that you paid her for babysitting?
Yes.
Because you say she was not a good babysitter.
Not exactly because she wasn't a good one, but more or less she was not attending to them.
Okay, that's your lawsuit. The Thompsons have a counterclaim, and the Thompsons want you to pay more for babysitting, because they say that you owe their daughter for babysitting. And they say that they also want punitive damages because they say that you were a bad influence on their daughter, which they will explain to me. So let's see where we can fix some responsibility here. What is your first name?
Clarissa.
When did Clarissa start to babysit for you?
Early February. I probably have an exact date in my calendar. Yeah, early February, like around the 9th, I believe, is the first time she babysat for me.
And how did you find her?
They lived above me in the apartment complex and had talked about babysitting and asked her to come over a few times prior to that.
Who did you talk to?
Clarissa.
Directly?
Yes.
So that all the arrangements that you made were with Clarissa?
Yes, ma'am.
And you arranged a fee?
Yes. After about a week or so, we decided that I would just go ahead and give her $30 a week because I was using her for an hour here, an hour there during the week.
So far, Clarissa, is that correct, that she was going to pay you
No,
$30 a week?
No, it is not.
Well, what was she supposed to pay you?
Well, she agreed to pay me $20 every time I babysat for her, which led to almost every day.
Really? $20 a day, even if you only babysat for an hour?
It was more than an hour. I would stay overnight sometimes because she would come home so late.
So starting the beginning of February, she started to babysit for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, Clarissa?
Yes, I started February 12th, actually.
Okay. Did she babysit for you in March?
Yes, she did.
Is that right, Clarissa?
Yes.
And you got paid?
Not really. She only paid me like once, and that was $60.
In all the time that you babysat for her?
Only $60.
Really?
Yes.
What about April? Did she babysit for you?
No,
in
ma'am.
April?
I received my first phone bill on March 24th.
And that's when you stopped the babysitting?
Actually, I had stopped babysitting about a week prior to that. I had come home and my 2-year-old had burned a popsicle stick on the stove. He said he was cooking it.
Okay. And how many weeks in total had she babysat for you?
Approximately 4 or 5.
How many weeks?
6.
Let's go through your book and figure out exactly how many weeks she babysat for you.
Would you like the book?
Yeah.
I didn't write down always when she babysat. I know I have the first few times written down.
She babysat every week for you after you hired her. She babysat for you for 5 weeks. Now, according to you, you were supposed to pay her $30 a week.
February 22nd was the first time I gave her $30. So I would imagine it would have been the first part of that week that we had made that agreement.
Well, then it's 4 weeks.
Okay, so
4
it's about a
weeks
week.
times 30 is $120. Now, how much had you actually paid her?
I've actually paid $140 because of the time prior to that.
So according to your records, you're all paid up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, tell me about the phone bill.
Clarissa would use the phone when she babysat, and from the very beginning I told her I did not have a problem with her using the phone, not to make long-distance calls. I'm a single mother. I don't have means to pay for long distance. I don't use long distance myself. I received my first bill on March 24th, I believe it was, that I put on there, and the long distance charges for that month were $308.40.
Who were you calling, Clarissa?
It was an ex-boyfriend of mine at the time.
Did you know that that was the wrong thing to do?
When I first started babysitting for her, she told me that I had all privileges of the phone. She never told me not to make long-distance calls.
Well, did you make those long-distance calls in your own house?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
Well,
did you ever get a phone bill for $300 a month?
No, ma'am.
No, of course not. Don't fool around with me, Clarissa. Don't fool around with me. Okay, so that's $308. Was that the total phone bill?
No, then I received one in mid-April for $31 in long distance, $87 in collect calls, and...
Was the boyfriend making collect calls to you?
No, he always called me direct.
So nobody called you collect?
No.
Is this have the number of the...
Yes, it does.
Is it the same number that she
No,
called?
ma'am, it's not. It's a Fresno number. When I asked Clarissa, have you been accepting collect calls from this number? And she says, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. And I have here $85 in collect calls. There's...
Well, she says she doesn't know whose those are, but it really doesn't make any difference.
They're not mine.
Let's say they're Clarissa's. Why should her parents be responsible for that?
Because she's a minor.
No, you're responsible for it. And I'm going to tell you why you're responsible for it. Because you have a mechanism where you can put on your phone a block so that you can't make long-distance calls.
I've never had a need for that.
Well, of course
I make long-distance occasionally.
Let me explain something to you. Your business arrangement was never with Clarissa's parents. Your business arrangement was with Clarissa. And if you want to ensure that things in your house are not abused, you have to take steps to do that. Her parents can't come into your house and do that. You have to do that. They are not responsible for the long-distance call made by their daughter in your house. You're responsible. You have to be prudent and vigilant, make sure that the phone isn't used, put the phone away, lock up the phone, disconnect the phone, do whatever you want to do with it. But there is no way that you are going to hold the Thompsons responsible for her calls that she made.
I had
not going to happen.
the agreement with her mother at one time, though, Your Honor.
I don't care whether you discussed an agreement with her mother or not. They're not responsible. You're responsible because they have no ability to see to it that in your house the phone isn't abused. They know how to do it in their house because her mother wouldn't tolerate it. Right?
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You think you're entitled to more money?
Well, yes.
Really? How much do you think she owes you?
Well, see...
Give me an idea.
I say about over 600.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robbie Gibbs says former babysitter 16-year-old Clarissa Thompson ran up her phone bill with long-distance phone calls. Clarissa says Robbie still owes her money.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, he would call her directly when I was there.
So?
So I never had any clue that she was calling him or making
Neither did her mother. Neither did her mother. You want to take care of your phone? Lock it in your drawer. It's not a mother's fault. And you'll know better next time. You hire a babysitter, you take out the phone. Or you put a block on it. You say you can't make long-distance calls. That's it. It's not legally responsible. And I can't find that her parents are responsible because you have the responsibility of ensuring that when you hire a teenage babysitter and you know that they sit on the phone and they can sit on the phone for hours, you make sure that they can't get to your phone. All right. Now, you want to tell me why you think you're entitled to any money back from the money that you paid her for babysitting?
Because she wasn't babysitting. She would go in my room and shut the door and use the phone. I came home on an occasion when that happened.
When was the first time you came home and found her?
It was about 2 weeks before I had her quit babysitting, and I told her she was not welcome at my home anymore. Her mother came down. We talked about it. Her mother assured me that it would not happen again. The following week is when I came home and my son had been burning a popsicle stick.
So? Then you fired her.
And then I fired her, yes.
So why do you think you're entitled to anything back?
I just put it in there because I thought that I paid her for services that were not rendered.
You should have been more vigilant. If I came home and found my 2 babies weren't being cared for by a babysitter, I would say, thank you very much. I'm paying you for the day. You're not welcome back here anymore.
Which is what I did.
No.
And then her mother
you had a
came down and
conversation
spoke
with
with
her
me.
mother, and her mother assured you it wasn't going to happen again. Come on. Get real. All right. Now let's get to your counterclaim, if you're serious about it. You think you're entitled to more money?
Well, yes.
Really? Why don't you tell me why you think you're entitled to more money?
Well, because I did babysit for the kids, you know, like, because most of the time she was barely in there. She'd send her oldest son to come get me at 6:30 after she got off work, and then she'd be gone all night.
How much do you think she owes you for babysitting?
Well, see...
Give me an idea.
I say about over 600, but
Really? You think over $600?
Yes.
Really? And you babysat for her each and every week?
Yes.
And you accepted the money she gave you, and you didn't say to her, no, you owe me more than $30 a week. I'm not taking the $30. You came back and you babysat for her again, another week, and then another week, and then another week.
She kept promising me, oh, I have to go to the bank, oh, I haven't got my check yet, or I haven't cashed it. That's what she had kept telling me. So
I'm just going to sit on the phone and talk to my boyfriend. Forget any more money. Chalk it up to the time that you were sitting on the phone in the bedroom, chewing the fat with the boyfriend. You got me?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. I was suing her for punitive damage because, actually, I don't want to do this.
Smart. Smart. It's her responsibility to take care of her phone. It's your daughter's responsibility to do the right thing if she's babysitting. I'm sure that you've had a chat with her about abusing the privilege of somebody else's phone. I have a feeling you have.
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right, Miss Gibb. Next time, you just be a little more careful, madam. That's all.
Excuse, you may step out.
I was pretty upset.
I'm very sorry for Mrs. Gibbs, and I hope that she get her life together.
She said that she had permission. Her parents said, no, you didn't have permission.
They both played on the telephone.
Press let teenagers babysit anymore.
Not to babysit for people like her again.
Tender Deborah Gilhooly is suing her ex-boyfriend, business owner Alan Nelson, for the value of a car and for half the cost of a trip to Las Vegas. Alan is countersuing for vandalism to his vehicle.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 149 on the calendar, the matter of Gilhooly versus Nelson.
Expert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Gilhooly, according to your complaint, the defendant was your boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time. You no longer live together, no longer boyfriend and girlfriend, but you claim that he owes you for a car, that he owes you for half of a trip to Las Vegas. The defendant says that the trip to Vegas was a gift. He doesn't discuss the car, which you have. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And you are counterclaiming because you say that Miss Gilhooly, in a fit of rage, vandalized your car to the tune of $4,700.
That's correct.
Okay. How long did you live together?
15 months, Your Honor.
15 blissful months. When did it start and when did it end?
We met in January and ended April 28th of this year.
Now, tell me about the car.
Your Honor, I purchased the vehicle on January 12th.
And you say you purchased a vehicle?
Correct.
I'm reading between the lines in your complaint when you say you purchased a vehicle. Am I correct that it was supposed to be his car, but he was supposed to pay for it?
Correct.
You took out the loan?
Correct.
Down payment? Who put down the down payment?
Basically, Your Honor, it was a cashier's check. It was paid in full. I took out a personal loan, and the car was purchased by a cashier's check.
And the car was to be his car with monthly payments being made to you to pay back the loan?
Correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
And how much was the total amount of the car that you paid?
The vehicle was $2,700.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 93 GMC Jimmy.
Did you pay her back?
No.
Why not?
Well, I was paying the payments until August 20th when we broke up. She
said you broke up in April.
Well, April 28th is when we broke up. Until then, I made payments all the way until April. Last payment I made was April 10th. And then April 28th, when the vandalism was done to the vehicle, I had to get the vehicle fixed eventually.
I see. So the vehicle that she vandalized was this vehicle?
Yes.
So you decided not to make any payments on
Not
it?
until like I owed her anything because she vandalized my vehicle and did the damage.
Gotcha. How much did you pay totally on the car?
I gave her $300 totally towards the loan on the vehicle.
Is that right?
He gave me more, Your Honor. He made 3 payments of, I have it out to $410.
$410. You see how honest she is?
Okay. Yeah.
So that means that you still owe her $22.90 on the car.
Right.
Now tell me about the trip to Las Vegas.
Alan and I were scheduled to leave on a Friday afternoon, and he did not get his paychecks in time. And I stated to Alan, I'm going with or without you, because I was meeting family out there. And he stated to me that he would pay me when I got back.
Your arrangement with him was you would pay for his plane fare.
We drove, Your Honor.
So what kind of expenses did you have when you were there?
Hotel, restaurant, gambling fees, things of that nature.
And what was the total amount?
The total amount for the Vegas trip came out to $1,869.13. I'm asking for $934.56.
Now you tell me your version of the Vegas trip.
Well, the Vegas trip was, I really didn't want to go because I'm pretty busy with my work and stuff. And she wanted me to go, and I said, well, I really can't afford to go, and I've got to keep my job and keep busy because we had kind of a slow winter this year. So she goes, well, you come out because she wanted me to meet her family. All of her family was going to be out there. And she goes, well, we got to go out there, and I want to go out there, and I want you to come with me. So I said, well, how's this trip going to work? And she goes, well, I'll take care of it. If you can pay me back, you can pay me back. And if you can't, you can't. That was the arrangements. But then at the time...
just a second. Hold on a second.
Okay.
So she said, I'll take care of it. And if you can pay me back, you'll pay me back. And if you can't, you can't? Is that what you said?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What kind of work were you doing, Mr. Nelson, at the time that you went on the Vegas trip?
I was working in the heating and air conditioning business, which I do. I do new construction. Plus, we were remodeling, we were finishing her basement in her house.
What work were you doing, Mr. Nelson? You may think that you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
You don't.
Okay.
When was the Vegas trip?
The end of March, Your Honor.
The end of March of this year?
Yes.
Who were you working for where you got a paycheck or cash every week or every 2 weeks?
My job.
Well, what was your job, sir?
Doing my job, heating and air conditioning construction.
Heating and air conditioning and construction.
Yep.
Are you still working for the same company?
I worked for a few different builders.
Is this your busy season?
Yep.
This season?
Yeah, summer.
Summer is your busy season?
Yep.
Is it busier than it was in March? Or the same?
About the same.
Good. So that you can pay her back. The contract was you would go on the trip to Vegas, and according to you, if you can pay her back, you will. And if you can't, you can't. But you can, because you have a job and you have money, so you can pay her back. Right? Perfect. So it wasn't a gift. You just told me what the terms of the contract were. You got it, Mr. Nelson?
Yep.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She asked me, well, I want the keys to the truck. I said, no, you can't drive the truck, you're drunk. And then she just started going crazy on my truck. The key in the vehicle, pulling on the bent the antenna, broke my wipers off.
Did you do anything to his antenna?
I bent it, but I put it back.
And later today,
I worked 6 and sometimes 7 days a week in order to make ends meet.
And who was taking care of the children when you were working?
She would be there at the house during that period of time.
And if she wasn't watching them, someone would have had to have watched them. Right?
I could have taken care of that too.
I'm sure you could have, but you didn't.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deborah Gilhooly says her ex-boyfriend, Alan Nelson, owes for the unpaid balance on a car. Alan says he stopped paying after Deborah vandalized the vehicle.
Tell me about the vandalism to your car.
Okay, here's some pictures, Your Honor.
No, tell me about when it happened, sir.
Well, we were at the bar on April 28th, 2002. Yeah, about 5:30. I ran into a few friends at a local bar that I hang out in where I grew up. And Debbie doesn't like the person that I met. She got angry. She had a few beers in her. She was intoxicated. She went off and sat in the corner by herself at the bar. And we didn't talk for 30 minutes. And she came back to me. And then she asked me, well, I want the keys to the truck. I said, no, you can't drive the truck. You're drunk. Oh, no. And she goes, no, my little brother was there. My brother Kevin was there. And he offered to give her a ride home. So then they walked out, and then she just started going crazy on my truck. And then she comes back in the place, and she goes,
what do you mean start going crazy?
She just started riding over, lipstick all over, key in the vehicle, pulling on bent the antenna, broke my wipers off. And I got pictures to prove damage.
I'd like to take a look at the pictures. Did you damage his truck?
I wrote on the vehicle, yes, Your Honor.
Did you key it?
No, I wrote with the ballpoint pen.
Well, if you wrote with a ballpoint pen, that means it scratched it.
Right, but it wasn't a key. Sorry.
Keyed, wrote with a ballpoint pen. Well, you can't do that.
I understand that.
Did you do anything to his antenna?
I bent it, but I put it back. I'm sorry.
So what does your car need? A new paint job?
Yeah, I have an estimate here for you, too.
The estimate better be a real cheap estimate, sir.
Oh, I got more damage. There's still more pictures.
Listen to me.
Okay.
You paid $2,700 for this car.
Yep.
You think I'm going to let you paint it and fix it for $5,600?
No, I didn't ask for that.
You think I'm going to let you paint it and fix it for $4,700, which is what your counterclaim is?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wrong. In whose name is the car titled?
My name. And right now there's a loan against it.
Really?
Yeah.
For what?
I had to pay for the transfer case and transmission went out after her and I separated. And I had to take a loan against it to get it out of the shop. And it was $2,600 and I borrowed $3,000 against it.
Somebody gave you $3,000 against a $2,700 car?
Yep.
That's why banks are failing.
Can I see the evidence as far as that lien? And
sure. I'll show you the pictures. Do you have the lien?
I don't have a lien with me now.
I also have pictures too.
But I have pictures too of this more that I want to show you. This profanity that's on the vehicle.
She wrote all over your car.
But 42 years old? That's, I mean, a 17-year-old kid wouldn't even do that. I mean, come on, she's 42 years old. Come on. How
old are you?
27. How mental stable is that?
What? You probably did the wrong thing.
So take it out of my vehicle, then I got to drive around this
No.
vehicle that says F you all over it, all kinds of profanity all over it, I got to drive it all over the place?
What? It's a car that you don't have to drive anywhere. You didn't pay for it.
But I did do work for her in her house. I did remodel, I did do the basement.
Were you living in the house?
Yes, I was.
How much rent were you paying?
I was paying whatever I could afford to pay her, but then I was...
Listen to me. That's not an answer.
Okay.
So you worked off your rent?
$10,000 worth?
Yeah, well, you know, some people are more expensive than others. Miss Kahuli, you see, your problem is that he owes you $22.90 for the car.
Okay.
He could probably get the car painted and buffed out or whatever, so it would look reasonable. At least he wouldn't walk around looking like a large profanity sign, you know, for $500–600. Or maybe he did. Did you have it painted, by the way?
No, I have not done it yet.
So you're driving around with a car that is really terrible looking.
Your Honor, he buffed out the word liar. I have pictures of that, too.
He what?
He buffed out the word liar. You got that out of the vehicle.
Well, you know, when you have a temper tantrum, you got to pay for your temper tantrum.
I understand.
And your temper tantrum's got to cost you some money. So I'm issuing a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,624. I have deducted the $600 so that Mr. Nelson can get his car painted.
Yes, Your Honor.
Modestly painted. And I suggest that you both go, be happy. You have had no contact since April?
A little bit, not much.
What do you mean a little bit, not much?
We're trying to set up appointments to meet, but it's over. I've got my life's been on. My life's went on. I've got a kid on the way, so.
Got a kid on the way?
Yes.
When?
It's due February.
Oh, when did you get married?
I am not married.
Wunderbar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor. You may step out.
And I helped the investor make her house go up and her value of her house go up and everything, about $30,000, and then I still got paid paying $2,600 some odd dollars. I don't think that's fair.
I would have liked to see the vehicle back, but oh well.
She's psycho. She has mental problems.
He's a basic idiot.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Reininger versus Lignar. Step forward, please.
Nurse's assistant Eva Reininger and her husband, mechanic Raymond Reininger, are suing their neighbors, landscaper Brad Lignar and his wife Deborah. The Reiningers claim the Lignar's dog, Sammy, destroyed their backyard.
Mr. and Mrs. Reininger, it is your claim that the defendant's dog damaged some property of yours. Tell me about that.
Somewhere around the second or third week of February, we found the dog wandering around our home.
What kind of dog was it?
Black Labrador. We saw he had a tag on with a telephone number on it. So we took the dog in, and I made a phone call. The phone number that we called was disconnected. I looked on the computer on a reverse directory, and I found the address. We went to the home. We noticed that there was nobody home. It was about a mile away from our home. And we had left a note that we had found the dog.
And you kept the dog in your house?
In our backyard. We have 2.5 acres fenced in. 2 or 3 days, we kept going back to see if anybody was there. We had also called animal control to let them know if anybody phoned in that they had a missing dog, that we had him. Finally, on a Monday, I had gone by the house again, and there was a car in the driveway, and I asked them if they were missing a dog, and Mr. Lignar said, yes, you have my Sammy, and they have a big fenced-in yard, and he said, our problem is he keeps jumping out. At that point, I said, would you like to come and get him? He says, well, where do you live? I said, about a mile down the road. At that point, he said, no. He says, just open the door, let him out, tell him Poppy's home, and he'll come home by himself. So I was on my way back, and then I saw Mrs. Lignar coming to get the dog. So we stopped in the street. The dog went and got in the truck with her.
Okay, so she actually then came to the dog.
Yes, she was on her way there. A week, 2 weeks went by. All of a sudden, we look in the backyard, and there's Sammy scaling our fence in our backyard, and now he's got a longer piece of chain attached to him. So he was with us again for a couple of days, and by now he had started.
Did you call them again?
Yes, we did. We tried calling, and nobody was answering. So at this point, I was starting to get a little fed up, and I said, this is ridiculous. They had told us the last time that they had gone to Daytona for 4 days, and apparently the dog was left unattended for 4 days while they were away. At this point now, I had already contacted the humanitarians who I work with. I work with Animal Rescue, and I work with several animal organizations. They were all willing to come and take Sammy if they did not want him. Now, we started noticing he was digging huge holes in the backyard, and he was digging out our shrubs. And now he was at the point where he was jumping over our fence and jumping back. Then we had a phone call, we had a message on our answering machine from Mr. Lignar saying, I know that you have my dog, I'd like you to bring my dog back. So we brought the dog back, and I guess my husband met with Mrs. Lignar and said, your dog has done several $100s worth of damages to our shrubs, our hedges, our fences, our bushes. You need to have someone come over and take a look at the damages. Well, they never came back. Well, Sammy must have come back 2 or 3 more times and kept jumping over our fence. At one point, we had him in our screened-in porch while he went through our screened porch. It's 2 years old, and it was custom built. The final straw was 2 o'clock in the morning. He came over our fence again, and we have a doggy door because we have 4 dogs of our own. Well, he came in through the doggy door, and he jumped into bed with our 4-year-old and our 2-year-old and scared the living daylights out of them. And to this day, we cannot get our kids to sleep in their own bed because they're terrified that this dog is going to come in and scare them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eva and Raymond Reininger are suing their neighbors, Brad and Deborah Lignar, for damage to their backyard. The Reiningers say their dog, Sammy, is the culprit.
Go ahead.
We have estimates, we have pictures of the damage of what the house looked like before Sammy, after Sammy, and what we did was we just went to a local gardening store and got estimates on how much it would cost to replace the plants and the shrubs, and we got an estimate from the people who did the screen on how much it would cost to repair.
Let me just see your estimates.
These are the before and after pictures of Sammy. And these
How
are
old
the
was
estimates.
Sammy?
I believe they told me at the time that he was a little over a year old.
Okay, who's going to speak for your family?
Me, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to hear you.
Well, the dog got loose when we were in Daytona. My daughter was coming over to feed my animals. Okay.
How many animals do you have?
I have 1 black lab and 2 cats.
And the black lab was kept outside?
Yeah, he was outside dog.
Never comes in your house?
No, he comes in. She doesn't like because of the dog here and stuff, but I sneak him in.
So the dog was outside day and night when you were away?
Yes.
Didn't you ever hear of a kennel?
Yes, ma'am.
So what's wrong with a kennel?
Well, he protects the house if anybody tries.
That protects the house if he's not there.
Well, somebody let him loose.
No.
Oh, yes.
Well, they didn't let him loose.
Well,
They didn't let him loose.
one of the neighborhood kids has let him loose before. You know, 'cause-
So if you know that happened before, then you should have taken steps and used a kennel.
Well, what I can't understand is they said Sammy turned around and broke the chain. Well, I have the dog's chain right here.
Well, we didn't have a ghost dog. It was your dog.
Yes, ma'am.
They did not go and get your dog. So why didn't, when they presented you with these bills, why didn't you take care of them?
I wasn't home at the time.
Well, what makes you think you're not responsible for these bills?
I don't see it's my dog's doing it. You know, maybe once or twice, but, you know, they have pictures every day that they said it was my dog. There's neighbors got other black labs, and they have a female black lab.
So?
Now, how do I know their dog didn't do it?
You don't, except that they say so. Did the Chronicles ever call you and indicate to you that they could place the dog?
No, she did not. If she did, she got somebody else's phone number.
Well, let's go back to the first time they came. Mrs. Reiniger says that the first time she came and said she has your dog because she had to go and find you, you said, well, just open the gate and tell him Poppy's home and he'll go home. Does that sound right to you?
No, I told her, I said, where's the dog at? She says, my house, chained up, in her backyard. Well, if you were going to get rid of a dog...
So what did you tell her to do?
I told her, unchain the dog, tell him to come home, he'll come home. If not, I'll come down and get him.
Is that stupid?
No.
I mean, is there something wrong with you? Your dog's been missing, you're gone. Somebody, total stranger, goes to the trouble of finding out where you live.
This was the second time.
I'm talking about the first time. Finding out where you live, coming to your home and saying, we have your dog, we've taken care of your dog while you've been on vacation in Daytona. Okay, we've taken care of your dog and protected your dog. Wasn't hit by a car, was fed, was cared for. And instead of you getting into your car and going over there and saying, thank you very much, I'm sorry for any trouble or inconvenience, you say, oh, just open up the door, let him go, tell him Poppy's home. How's wrong with you?
I don't know where she got this Poppy stuff from.
Probably from you.
No, you're wrong.
Yeah. And it kept happening again and again and again. So clearly, something was wrong with the security system that you had Unless you believe that these people came and stole your dog out of your yard.
They might have done that too.
Are you under psychiatric care?
Yeah.
Huh?
No.
Are you under psychiatric
No.
care? You on any medication?
No.
And then you're just being a smart mouth. Where is Sammy now? How is it that he hasn't been back to your house in how long?
It's been quite a while.
Where is he now?
She had him. My wife had him.
Put to sleep.
Why did you have him put to sleep?
While all this has been going on, I had taken Sammy to get him neutered, and when I took him in to get him neutered, he was diagnosed with heartworm. So I had to have him put to sleep.
You don't put a dog to sleep who has heartworm. You treat him.
No, they said it was too
They said
too
he
far
was
gone.
into the advanced stages, so.
Well, if he was in the advanced stages, it means you weren't giving him heartworm medication, which you're supposed to give your dogs. That's what dogs get, heartworm pills. So, you know, especially they're outdoor dogs. Why weren't you giving the dog proper pills?
We were.
If a dog is getting heartworm medication regularly, they do not get heartworm. Unfortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Reiniger, you're only suing for $470. I say that unfortunately because these are the most irresponsible people that I've met in a long time. That's just damage to your yard and your property and not for the trauma that Sammy caused when he just came into the room. He didn't hurt your children, but he came in the middle of the night. Your lawsuit seeks $470. Judgment for the plaintiff. Don't get any more dogs.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They're selling their house, so they want to re-landscape. I'm surprised they didn't ask for a new paint job.
If they did indeed have the dog put down at a vet, I'd like to know what vet, because we were told that it's possible that they had the dog shot and put down that way.
She lied.
The sheriff came and he saw this dog actually scale our fence.
He said that the dog had done some damage to a door and that he had destroyed some bushes at their home.
The dog had come into our house and scared the kids, and they wouldn't sleep upstairs in the bedroom anymore.
How do I know that my dog went inside there?
How do you go away for 4 days or 3 nights and leave your dog alone?
They lied a few other things.
I just hope that nobody ever lets them own another pet.
It's a big scam.
Irresponsible people should not be pet owners.
19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard are suing Brandon's father, William Blanchard, for unpaid wages, property damage, and stolen belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Gus. Case number 2028, Eliasov Blanchard versus Blanchard.
Thank you, Kevin.
Welcome.
Eliasov?
Yes, ma'am.
That's you. How old are you?
19, almost 20.
19.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
I am a server.
Since when?
As of June of this year.
This is your boyfriend?
A fiance, yes, ma'am.
Fiance. And how long has he been your fiance?
For over a year.
What does he do for a living?
He is currently unemployed.
When was the last time he had a job?
That was about a year ago.
What kind of work did he do a year ago?
Warehouse work.
Is there any reason that he hasn't worked in a year?
He has concussions and back injuries. And
from what?
From car accidents.
Does he currently have any lawsuits pending with regard to those accidents?
No, ma'am.
So the accidents were your fault?
No, they were the other people's faults.
The other people had no
insurance? The other person didn't have insurance at the time. So later on, he ended up stating that he did have insurance and got out of the ticket.
Do you see a doctor regularly?
Not anymore, no. I used to, though, until I ran out of my insurance for health insurance. And then the bill just kept stacking up on me.
At that time, did you have an attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever have an attorney with regard to, did you ever consult an attorney with regard to these accidents? No.
No.
Okay, fine. Is there any reason why you're not working?
Yes, ma'am. I have bad back problems that I've had for quite some time. I have 4 discs out in my lower back. I also have knee injuries, shoulder injuries. I was pushing my body more than I should have been. I was over 300 pounds working in a heated environment, working every day. And I dropped all the weight, and then I ended up hurting myself even further from there. And then my doctor told me not to do anything over 20 pounds, so I went against her rules, and I did it anyways, and I kept injuring myself.
What kind of work does your father do?
He works as a U-Haul business associate and mechanic as well.
When did you live with your father?
I lived with my father in January, I believe it was 8th.
January of what year?
Of 2022, sorry.
After you have been disabled all this time because of all the heavy work?
Yes.
Let me give a general outline of what this case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
You and your fiancée were living where?
We were living with my father.
No, before you lived with your father.
My father.
Her father.
In what state?
Wyoming.
There come a time when your father either said it's enough or you decided that you were no longer happy in Wyoming?
It was a conflict with his girlfriend that came about.
Whatever it was. Yeah. If it was a conflict with his girlfriend, your father told you to skedaddle.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And you called your father.
No, I didn't call my father.
Who did?
My father called me.
You mean just out of the blue?
Yeah, he does it at random once in a while.
He just called you at about the same time that your fiance's father told you to get out.
Yes, is what I believe. Anyways, I've had a few concussions, Your Honor, and I don't remember a lot.
Okay, we're going to get there. In any event, you had a discussion with your father that you didn't have a place to live, you didn't have a job, she didn't have a job, you had no money, her father was kicking you out of the house, and he drove cross-country to get you.
Yes, ma'am.
In what month?
It was in January.
January of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
How many miles did he drive to come and get you?
I think 1,000 miles, maybe.
Each way?
Each way, probably about 2,000 total, something like that.
Okay, so he drove 2,000 miles to come and get you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he brought you back to his house.
Yes, ma'am.
And you weren't working.
Yes, ma'am.
And the girlfriend wasn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you weren't working, the girlfriend wasn't working, you had no money, so your father was taking care of your expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And now you're suing him. And you're suing him for a host of things, which I'm going to give you a relatively short time to tell me about. But one of the things that your fiance says is that your father owes you for wages because you worked for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing what?
I was doing U-Haul work, basically.
What is U-Haul work?
Oh, sorry. I'll explain. Sorry, ma'am. Basically, what we do.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically.
Sorry.
I want to hear what you were doing.
I would hook up U-Hauls. I would also clean and inspect all the vehicles.
Just a second. Hook up the U-Hauls.
Hook up the U-Hauls.
Clean and inspect them.
Clean and inspect them.
What does it involve in cleaning them?
Basically spraying down.
Not basically.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. We spray down all the.
Not we. You.
Yeah. Sorry. I spray down every single surface of the innards of the vehicle, basically the steering wheel, the floor plates, the radio, everything.
And when you hook them up, explain how you hook something up.
How I have to hook something up is just backing up, lining up with
So you'd have to drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're driving a car and backing up?
Yes, ma'am. And
so,
then...
you're using a rear view mirror?
Yes.
And yourself? You're looking to see where you're backing up because you have to use both?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you hook them. Well, what else did you do for your father?
I also did paperwork for him, doing like inventory stocks and stuff like that.
Terrific.
Basically.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically. Basically is a filler word.
Sorry, ma'am. What else was I doing? I would sweep, clean up his shop. I would do a lot of things.
Okay, all while you were unable to do anything else.
Yes, ma'am. I would.
Just a second.
What were you saying?
After your back issues, after your concussions, after whatever other injuries that you had from working someplace. By the way, you don't have a lawsuit pending against anybody, do you?
No. Ma'am.
So it's just a question of fetching, other than maybe trying to collect a disability somewhere along the line from the federal government. You were able to hook up U-Hauls, clean them and sanitize them, sweep out the premises, do paperwork, but you can't work. I mean, because part of the lawsuit is about all this work that you did. But all while you're telling me that you're unemployable because of all the injuries that you had.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okie dokie. You understand how ridiculous that sounds to me.
Yes.
I only had one other case in my recent memory that sounded anywhere familiar to this story, and that was a man that was also receiving disability because he had a bad back. He was the plaintiff in a lawsuit suing someone because he had built them an outdoor patio deck alone. And he wasn't paid the $6,000 for it. But he had been collecting disability for a back ailment for 31 years from the federal government. That sound odd to you?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't it sound odd to you that you're able to put hookups together and sweep and everything else, but you can't say, do you want a hamburger with your fries or fries with a burger?
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds peculiar to you. Right. So I don't want to hear about work. Okay, that's the first thing. And you lived in your father's house for how long, by the way?
I think we only lived there for the first month, and then we ended up getting moved out to a camper for like the last bit of the, I think, 2 months that we were there.
I don't know what you're suing for. You want to tell me? I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go.
And later today.
That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100, and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used?
She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you.
"19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard claim Brandon's father, William Blanchard, owes for unpaid wages and stolen property. William is countersuing for moving expenses and property damage.
Now, I'm not entertaining your wages because you can't work. That's what he just swore to. He can't work. That's why he's unemployed. He has 4 disc problems. I think he said 4, whatever. He can't work. Forget him now. I want you to tell me what you're suing this man who drove 2,000 miles to rescue you after your father threw you out. I want you to tell me what you think he owes you for.
For the stolen property of my vehicle.
What stolen property of your vehicle?
He stole my toolbox with the key with it and also parts that went to my vehicle.
Did you take her toolbox?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Next. What's next?
Whenever I confronted him about it.
About what?
About the toolbox when we went to go get my truck, then he would say what he just said, that he never took it. But when I asked him where did the key go for it, he denied he would just ignore that fact.
Well, it's not a fact. It's not a fact unless you can prove that he took your property. You said he just said to you, I don't have your toolbox.
But my vehicle was on his property, in his possession.
Okay, and that's what you have. Your vehicle, while you were living there, was on his property, and therefore he's responsible for the toolbox.
Yes, ma'am. When he kicked us out and then told us to come back for the truck, he was going to give us 2 weeks to have it towed.
Because the truck wasn't working, but he let the truck stay on his property for 2 weeks.
Yes.
What else are you suing him for?
Just for the repairs on the vehicle.
On what vehicle?
On my truck. That whenever I went to go get the truck off his property after that 2 weeks, that's when the toolbox was missing, and I also looked under the hood, and there was wires hanging out, and those wires, I do have pictures.
Just a second. Let me ask you this question. You said, you said he gave you 2 weeks to come and get your truck off his property. The truck was inoperable when you left it on his property. Wasn't running.
No, ma'am.
That's right. You did not come to get it off his property in 2 weeks. You came after the 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
How much after the 2 weeks?
I think just like a couple days after. We came back on April 23rd and we left the property April 6th.
So it was after the 2 weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let's get there fast because I'm quickly losing patience with 2 ingrates.
Here's the pictures.
I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go. Move on. Your father came 2,000 miles to get you. He fed you for a month. He kept a roof over your head for a month. In return, you're suing him for nonsense. Let us move on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. Now, Mr. Blanchard.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a countersuit that actually you wouldn't have brought now because you didn't have an agreement with your son and his fiancée when you went to get him. How many children do you have?
8 altogether.
Prior to going to get him cross country, when had you seen him?
Been several years.
Tell me about the conversation when he contacted you.
He said, Dad, I have no place to go. We can try to stay with her grandmother. I offered, said, I'll come get you if you have no place to go.
And then?
Within a week, I dropped everything to go get him.
Now, when your son and his fiancée came to you, sir, did you put him to work in your business?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long was he in your business?
Altogether, maybe less than 90 days.
Did he work in your business after they moved out of your house? He says they only lived in your house for 30 days.
They were in the house 45 days, and then they were left another 45 days inside of a camper.
Can you tell me why they moved into a camper?
There was a chance of my daughter coming home, and they were living in her room at the time. And so I wanted to make sure they still had something, so I put them into a camper.
Camper on your property?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of camper?
Small camper.
So they used the inside of the house to shower and
yes, Your Honor.
Stuff, but they slept in the camper?
Yes, Your Honor.
All true?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And he paid for the camper. He paid for the electricity, water, etc. when you were in now. She wasn't working. Did he also pay for the food? Did you eat in the house or did you eat in the camper?
No, ma'am. We were getting food stamps. So we paid for our own food. And we also helped them with their food as well.
Why were you getting food stamps?
For the short bit of time because he recommended to get on food stamps.
Had you been on food stamps when you lived in Wyoming?
No, ma'am.
Okay, how did you support yourself there?
I was working at the time.
And what about him?
Driving company, basically, we go around, pick up food from places and
So
deliver.
you were able to drive?
Yes.
Oh.
For only a little bit.
With all those injuries? Amazing. Okay, I would like you to testify, sir, now to the conversation that you had with your son with regard to compensation for coming to pick him up in Wyoming. Be very careful what you say to me.
I told my son before I picked him up, I said, you need to pay me back for this trip.
Did you tell him what for the trip? I mean,
Yes,
your
for all
time?
expenses. All expenses for the trip.
For the expenses?
Yes, Your Honor.
How was he supposed to do that? He wasn't working.
He was supposed to get a nighttime job on top of working, helping me out around my shop.
Did he help you around your shop?
He
You
did.
said about 90 days. Did you pay him?
No, Your Honor.
Well, if he worked for you for 90 days and you didn't pay him at all, and it cost you a couple of $1,000s, according to you,
Yes, Your Honor.
to go out and get him, hire trucks, spend time back, whatever it was, and he worked for you for 90 days without compensation, why do you think he did that?
I was hoping just because that's what he really wanted to do.
No good deed goes unpunished. You went and you got him, and now they're suing you, but their case is dismissed. They have no case against you. It's all a bunch of nonsense and ridiculous. But likewise, sir, your counterclaim is for the expenses that you incurred in going to pick them up. I don't actually think that there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, but even if there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, the fact that he worked for 90 days without any compensation, I think, more than compensates you for that. As a result of that, your counterclaim as well is dismissed. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
You try to do your best for your kids whenever you can. This is no different.
It's been very difficult growing up.
I hope he gets his life together.
I don't want anything to do with him.
I'll always be there for him.
It's time to cut the strings. I'm done with him.
That young man sounded as if he was intelligent. That doesn't mean he was smart. That means he was intelligent. Because at age 19 or 20, to have already figured out that you can't work because you have a bad back unless you really have to work. If you really have to work, then you can work for your father. That's a bad mindset for a very young person. That means that your life is really going nowhere. You're not preparing yourself to do anything.
And to take it a step further and to sue the only person that was there for you in a time when you needed them.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Sean Rubin is suing his brother, Randall Rubin, for unpaid expenses from their mother's funeral.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Good morning, Judge. Case number 2011, Rubin versus Rubin.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Rubin, this is your brother.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this case involves sharing expenses for your mother's funeral.
Correct.
And it is your claim that your brother, who I believe was living with your mother at the time she died,
Right.
agreed to pay half of the funeral expenses when he received proceeds from a small life insurance policy that your mother had left.
Yes, Judge. Our mother only left us a $5,000 life insurance policy.
That's what the case is about.
Right.
Your brother's position is it's not his responsibility. He made no such promise. Of course, you do understand that without that promise to pay for your mother's funeral expenses, children aren't normally responsible for the expenses of their parent. You understand that?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Rubin, when did your mother pass away?
She passed away August 20th of 2021.
How old was she?
She was 86.
And how long had you been living with your mother?
Your Honor, I took care of my mother since 1991.
Well, if you were taking care of her for almost 30 years, sir, what kind of physical malady did she have when she was in her 50s?
She suffered from chronic kidney failure.
When did that medical condition develop?
Pretty close to 91.
What is pretty close to 91?
Beginning in the 90s, 91, 92, etc.
So when you moved in with her, was your mother sick or was she not sick?
She was sick.
Did you live with your mother because it was not only good for your mother, but because it was good for you? That's what I'm
Correct.
trying to get
Yes.
to. The answer is yes.
Yes,
And you moved into your mother's house
Correct.
that she owned or rented?
She was purchasing it through a mortgage.
She owned her home.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Was she working in the 90s?
She was.
Therefore, she wasn't incapacitated to the extent that she needed full-time care.
At the beginning, no, ma'am.
When you moved in with her, she was employed on a full-time basis,
Correct.
sufficient enough to get a mortgage from a bank based upon her income.
Correct.
And what were you doing in 1991?
I worked.
For whom?
Associates.
For how long?
Off and on from 91 till about 2 years ago.
What does off and on mean?
I had several jobs in between. I sold cars for various car dealerships, and I also owned several businesses.
When you lived with your mother, who paid the mortgage?
My mother did.
Did you pay your mother for any expenses? Rent, gas, electric, phone, anything? Or did you live there And you had an agreement. You lived there. She wanted your company, whatever it was. She lived alone?
At the time, yes.
In 1991, she was just living alone?
Correct.
And I assumed, therefore, happy to have your company.
Correct.
I assume. Okay. So you made no payments to your mother?
With the occasional help with some utilities or food, yes.
Okay. So you were able, I assume, to save a substantial amount of money?
Correct.
Just for my own information, so that I can sort of put this thing together.
Sure.
You have stocks, bonds, savings?
No, ma'am.
What do you have? You were able to save a lot of money. How did you invest it?
I invested in several businesses, which one is my liquidation company.
What happened with your mother's house?
When she passed, I was still residing at the house. I paid the mortgage by myself for the months of September 2021 as well as October 2021. And I remained there until, I want to say, February 2022. My sister is the executor of the estate, and she sold it just recently for $465,000.
Okay, so what I'm gathering from you, you paid the mortgage, you say, in September and October, then you stopped paying the mortgage November, December, January, and February.
That is correct, ma'am.
But you lived in the house?
I did.
Rent-free, because you paid nothing?
Correct.
Where are you living now?
I live in Nogales, Mexico.
And you live in a house, you live in
an apartment, ma'am.
You pay rent?
I do.
Anybody live with you?
No, ma'am.
What's your rent?
$250.
Okay. And what was the mortgage payment in your mother's house?
I paid $1,750 even.
Are you the sister?
Yes, Your Honor.
Could you stand up for a second? I'm just getting some information. Tell me your name.
Shannon Hayes.
Miss Hayes, house was sold recently for $465,000. And what was left on the mortgage?
$258,000 plus a $35,000 third mortgage.
Your Honor, since her brother was not paying, since he wasn't paying, the house actually went into foreclosure. And so we had to get...
Just to say, I didn't ask you anything.
Okay, I'm just...
Sarah Rose, $465,000 less $258,000.
$207,000, Your Honor.
Less $35,000.
$172,000.
Okay, and there are 3 siblings?
And also, Your Honor, there was a $10,000 lien on the property that had to be paid.
So we're down to $162,000.
Correct.
So it's $162,000 clear, so a little over $50,000 a person.
She owed the IRS, Your Honor, for back payments in excess of $54,000. She hadn't paid taxes in years.
Did you pay the IRS?
I just did.
And how much did you pay the IRS?
$54,188.
Sarah, from $162,000, take out $54,000.
$108,000.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor. She had Arizona state taxes, $3,000 I paid as well.
105. Is that 105 net?
So we also have the medical bills that I had to take care of.
She had no insurance, and she had to have Medicare.
She did, Your Honor. That's her copayment.
Okay, and what was her copayment?
$3,000 in medical.
Let's do a simple $100,000. How much were the funeral expenses?
$2,434.73.
Was the total funeral expense?
Yes.
Well, that's what you're claiming he owes you.
That's his share of the...
I want to know what the entire funeral costs, sir. You'll show me the invoice.
Sure. I do have all the invoices for you. The first one, Your Honor, is just for the cremation.
1058.
Correct.
Okay. 1058.
The next one should be from the cemetery.
This is the total funeral home charges, and this is cremated remains internment of $2,200.
Correct. The next invoice you should have, Your Honor, is from services provided by a rabbi.
Okay, that was $600.
Your Honor, it was actually $700. I paid the rabbi $100 as an honorarium.
No, that's $600. Whatever you want to pay him as an honorarium, that's fine. So the total expenses $3,858.
You should have another invoice for a proposal for a headstone as well.
1717.
Yes, Your Honor.
$3,858 plus $1,717.
$5,575.
That's it. Okay. I assume your mother died without a will.
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And you are the only surviving siblings?
Yes, Your Honor.
The estate will be divided into 3 parts.
Correct.
So each one of you will get about $33,000 from the estate after all of the expenses have been paid.
There's also the real estate commission fees that we didn't mention to subtract from the net income.
And what were the real estate commission fees?
$30,000.
Oh, that's a substantial amount.
Yes, Your Honor.
So 108 less 30, $78,000. So now you're down to $25,000 each.
That's correct, Your Honor.
What I'm trying to figure out is, even giving you all those expenses that you paid, your mother's estate, absent this $5,000 life insurance policy that there was, correct? And you got a share of that life insurance policy. How much? Yes, the answer is yes. How much did you receive?
$2,500 even.
Okay, $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get a share of that life insurance policy?
No, Your Honor.
Did you?
Yes, Your Honor. I also received $2,500.
Great. And the estate had net, after everything, at least $75,000 divided by 3, which is $25,000 apiece after you pay all expenses, which in this case would have been funeral expenses. Do you understand where I'm coming from, sir?
I do.
I have children and grandchildren. 10 years is a long time. That's a grandchild. If she didn't see me at least once a month, she better keep her fingers crossed that I don't change my will.
Sean Rubin is suing his brother, Randall Rubin, for unpaid funeral expenses. Randall is countersuing, claiming Sean defamed him.
So now, if what you're asking me, Mr. Rubin, is to find that you had an agreement with your brother to pay 1/3 of the funeral expenses because the two of you each paid 1/3 of the funeral expenses. Is that what you did?
Well, Your Honor,
that's either a yes or a no.
It is a no. I'm the only one that had the money to process our mother. He would not even sign to get her processed to continue the cremation. I have evidence here I'd like to submit to you where he agreed to pay me half of it out of his life insurance.
Okay, that's all.
I have text from him.
Just a second. I'm going to take a look at it. You have to understand, Mr. Rubin,
yes,
that at this point, if I find that he agreed to pay for half, then you understand that you agreed to pay for half of her funeral. Ordinarily, the funeral expenses, you may front the money for those funeral expenses, but if the deceased had sufficient money in their estate to cover their last expenses, and those would be medical expenses, which you paid out of the estate, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Taxes, which you paid out of the estate.
Yes, Your Honor.
You paid out of the estate after you sold the house, broker's fees. Mm-hmm. State tax fees, along with those kinds of fees, would be funeral expenses. Now, if the two of you agreed, or the two brothers agreed, which is what you're saying, that he agreed to pay half, not 1/3, but he agreed to pay half of the funeral expenses for which you are not being reimbursed by the estate. Do you understand?
Correct. I have not received anything from the estate, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, this would be you. I'll let you know tomorrow. I think it's $2,200 for Menorah Gardens, and cremation was $1,053, so it's $1,626 each. That would be you, right?
Yes.
Okay, 1,626, because you asked him how much you owed, right?
I did.
So I assume since you asked him how much you owed, you had some sort of an arrangement with him to pay 1/3, because it does say 1/3 of the funeral expenses.
That is correct.
Okay, great.
I do want to interject, Your Honor, and let you know that when I did receive my monies, the $2,500 from her life insurance, we had communicated with one another that I had some emergency dental work that needed to be done. It was life-threatening. And therefore, he said, I don't have the email because I had to block him. I have a restraining order against him. So I lost all my emails between us.
Listen,
however,
nobody ever has their emails here or a video.
A very substantial amount of those monies went for my dental.
I don't care. How old are you?
59, ma'am.
You have lived rent-free for 30 years. And according to you, you had businesses. You worked most of that time, either selling cars or on and off for a company for 30 years. You made an agreement with your brother to pay 1/3 of your mother's funeral expenses. And as far as I'm concerned, if you had dental problems, pay for it from the resources of one of your businesses because you had no expenses. You have very little sympathy for you. You lived in the house for months without paying the mortgage. That's outrageous. That's taking money away from them. Do you understand that?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
say you lived in the house for 3 months rent-free, at least 3 months rent-free. So if you paid mortgage payments for 2 months, I would say to you, sounds pretty reasonable to me. You know, there's a story that's created.
Correct.
And what's created here is there's unequivocal information in these text messages that you and your brother and sister, because you, sir, are claiming that he owes half. He doesn't owe half. That was never the agreement, according to what you gave me. According to what you gave me, and in your own hand, you say this is what you owe me, $1,600, not $2,600.
Well, Your Honor, if I can explain, the reason why I said half is only me and my brother were included in life insurance policy. My sister was not named on it, and it was only for $5,000. So,
sir, listen carefully to me.
I mean, if we put our money together, we could have paid for it.
Listen carefully to me. That has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. The same with his dental has
proceeds of
nothing
your
to do with
mother's
me.
final resting should have come out of the estate. That way it would have been borne equally between the 3 people who will profit from the estate. You understand?
I understand, Your Honor.
Very good. So if you understand that, the math is simple. If he pays 1/3, you get your sister to kick in whatever she's getting back from the $25,000, and everybody is equal.
Well, Your Honor, I mean, you're already getting the vibe that this guy's the biggest bum who lived with his mother, sponged off of his mother.
Let me explain something to you. That is unnecessary here. Unnecessary and really quite stupid. Stupid. You handed me evidence, sir, that you made an agreement with him. He asked you what he owed. You told him.
Yes.
$1,600. That's what you told him, that he owes you, $1,600.
That's correct.
And each of you are getting a certain amount of money for nothing from your mother. I'm going to ask you some questions. Prior to her death, when was the last time you saw her? When was the last time you saw your mother? Month and year?
I honestly do not recall, Your Honor.
Okay, just a second. Was it in the decade that she died?
Yes.
Okay, well, she died in 2021. So when did you see her?
Probably several years before that, Your Honor.
Well, so you didn't see her in the decade before?
Your Honor, you have to understand, her house was infested with bed bugs.
Pay careful attention to me. I asked you some questions.
Yes.
My question was, when was the last time you saw your mother? So you hadn't seen your mother in a decade. When was the last time you saw your mother?
I saw my mother frequently, Your Honor. It was in May, Mother's Day.
Okay, Mother's Day of
2021.
And Your Honor, I did.
I'm not speaking to you. March of 2021. Prior to that, when did you see your mother?
November 2021.
Wait a minute. How could you see her in November 2021 if she passed in August of 2021?
November 2020.
Okay. May 2021, November of 2020. Prior to that, when did you see your mother?
I saw her frequently because...
No, not frequently. Month and year.
I don't have the...
Did you see her every month?
No, Your Honor.
Did you see her every 2 months?
About that, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, between May and November, that's more than 2 months. That's what you can remember.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it would be fair to say that whether he took great care of her and whether the house was clean or dirty or anything else, your 86-year-old mother lived with your brother, whether you like him or not, and you were totally disinterested in her. You're the one who started this, sir. I was about ready to finish this case, but when you say he's a bum, I say, you know what? This guy's got to be put in his place. He may have been, but he was the bum who took care of your mother. You started it.
Sean Rubin is accusing his brother, Randall Rubin, of not paying his share of funeral expenses. Randall claims Sean spread multiple lies about him.
So it would be fair to say that whether he took great care of her and whether the house was clean or dirty or anything else, your 86-year-old mother lived with your brother, whether you like him or not, and you were totally disinterested in her.
Well, that's not true, Your Honor.
Well, I want to know if you didn't see your mother in a decade,
in a decade, and she had failing health, I would say, as a child, you were totally disinterested in her.
I did visit my mother after she had kidney replacement or kidney surgery. I visited her after her surgery. We both did.
Just a second. Do you understand where I'm coming from, sir?
I do.
I have children and grandchildren, right?
Sure.
10 years is a long time. That's a grandchild. If she didn't see me at least once a month, she better keep her fingers crossed that I don't change my will.
Well, Your Honor, I'm sure that Sarah is very close to you, where we live out of state.
Just a second.
We both have real jobs.
Just a second. If her father didn't visit me at least once a month, and we live in different states, he too would check the will. So what I'm telling you is, if you don't see your mother for 10 years, you are a disinterested child. You're the one who started this, or I was about ready to finish this case, but when you say he's a bum, I say, you know what? This guy's got to be put in his place. He may have been, but he was the bum who took care of your mother.
No, oh, absolutely not.
Oh, really? Did your mother have full-time nursing care for the last 10 years? The answer is either yes or no.
It's an absolute
She
no.
declined.
That's not what I asked you. Not what she declined. Did she have full-time nursing care? That's a yes or a no?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Okay, so if she didn't have full-time nursing care and she was in poor health because, based upon your blurted-out answer to me, you thought she should have full-time care.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, but she didn't. So he took care of her. You don't like the way he took care of her. That's your prerogative, but you let him take care of her. And you went about your business in your own states where you live, and he took care of her. And you didn't like him, and he may have been a sponge and a bum. You started it. But you were not interested enough in your mother to move next door to her, or to have her move next door to you when she got sick.
Your Honor.
Somebody else
I actually did ask her to move in with me, and she declined.
Right. She didn't want to live with you. There had to be a reason for that if she was being abused.
Your Honor, there is.
Unless, do I look like I need help from you?
No, of course not.
Then I want you to be quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe him $1,600. That's it, not $26. What he's asking you. Put it down.
I have a counterclaim.
$1,600, and I'll hear your counterclaim.
Thank you.
Which sounds a little ridiculous to me. I'm finished with you. $1,600. That's what you owe, except for the counterclaim, which I'll hear. Well, the counterclaim is that they posted something on the internet that says that there were bugs in the shoes you were selling. If that's just a second, quiet. Your counterclaim says that he defamed you and your business because he wrote on the internet that there were bugs in the shoes you were selling. I couldn't make that up. Let me see. Maybe I did make it up.
You're correct. That's exactly
he posted that there were bugs in the shoes I was selling.
He also put that I impregnate Hispanic women.
Just a second. First of all, that's not in here.
It's right here, ma'am.
It's not in my answer. So I want to see where he wrote. And who knows what you're doing in Mexico? I have no idea what you're doing in Mexico. Show me what he wrote about the bugs in the shoes that you're selling. Giving me a whole lot of nonsense there that I'm not going to read.
It's not.
These
are the posts that he put online. These are also letters from my mother in her own.
I'm not reading the letters from your mother.
Okay.
I'm reading a post or more where he says there are bugs in the shoes you are selling.
Yes.
Period.
Do you want to hear the audio that he sent to one of my employers?
No. I want to see where he wrote there are bugs in the shoes you are selling, which is what's in my answer.
Right here, ma'am.
May I have it, please?
And I do have a restraining order on him as well.
I'm not interested in your restraining order. Okay, so this has nothing to do with anything. I'm going to give this back to you, and if you don't hand me exactly what I asked for, I'm dismissing. I'm not reading all that drivel. I asked you for one post.
Your Honor, if you'd like to say
I don't want to hear you.
This is what I wrote.
I
if you
don't
want to see it.
want. This is not your case to prove, sir.
Okay, I'm just trying to be honest.
Here you go, Your Honor. This is one that he
Thank you.
wrote
Don't
to
tell
my
me
employer.
one. Just give me the posts about shoes. This has nothing to do with shoes.
This one is in Spanish.
If you show me one more thing that doesn't say bugs and shoes, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Please look at this one. It is in Spanish.
No, that's your problem. The counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
I'm very pleased with the judge's decision. I think she made the right decision.
I wasn't really thrilled.
I'm just kind of glad it's over. I never want to see my brother again.
We're a very estranged bunch of people. We do not like each other.
She didn't raise him right. She raised us right, and we're going to do the right thing on behalf of our mom.
First and foremost, I will visit you every month, every week, every day, if that's what it takes. But in all seriousness, this case shows how foolish it is not to memorialize your wishes for the end, because it creates a heightened sense of stress at a time when emotions are already running high. And first rule of wills, trusts, and estates class is always have a will. So it doesn't matter how much you have, how little you have. It's important, your wishes, and to prevent situations like this, your loved ones having to go through.
Yeah, and be angry with each other. I mean, they don't love each other anyway, but to be angry with each other, if you can avoid that. Even young people, Sarah, who have put anything together. Yeah. You have a will?
I do.
There you go.
I wouldn't want my loved ones going through that. So, yeah, you have to take the time and write it down. And yeah, that's really all you can do to avoid the situation.
You're right.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.tv. Michael Griniger is suing truck mechanic Sean Antle for a truck engine and repair costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2022, Griniger versus Antle.
Thank you. Mr. Griniger, how long have you and the defendant been friends?
I've known Sean probably maybe 3 or 4 years now.
From where?
He lives about 3 blocks away from me. I've met him through another friend that told me he worked on his vehicles before.
You did mechanical work?
Yes.
What kind of business are you in?
Construction, you name it, anything construction.
And you have a couple of trucks?
Yes.
How many?
I have one commercial vehicle, and then I just have a Chevy Avalanche.
The commercial vehicle, would you describe it to me? That's the one he was supposed to work on?
Yes.
Describe it to me, please.
It's a 16-foot box truck.
How old?
A 97.
1997?
Yes, ma'am.
It's as old as Sarah. And I suppose it needed a little work.
Yes.
And you took it to your friend.
Yes.
Did you drive it over there to his house 2 or 3 blocks away? Did you have it towed over to his place?
We had to have it towed over there. It was operable before.
But you had it towed?
Yes.
Yeah. And what month and year did you have it towed there?
I believe this started in June of 2020.
And Mr. Antle, you looked at it and you determined it needed a new engine.
Well, I looked at it. Actually, I did some work prior to that. The intake manifold gasket was...
You mean before June of 2020?
Yes.
And then the truck was running? Then he took back...
Running very crappy.
So it was not running well even after you fixed it?
After I put the intake gasket on, I had it started, it made the same noise. We decided to put an engine in it.
Okay, so it wasn't working after the initial work you did on it?
No.
Decided to put an engine in it. Now, how much was it to work on the engine?
He gave me a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. It was not all in one lump sum.
How much did he give you?
It was 100 here once, 100 twice, a couple different times, you know.
How much money did you give him?
800.
How much did you quote him for the whole job?
1,000.
So he gave you 800, and according to the papers that Mr. Griniger filed, he also purchased an engine.
Yes.
And this was in June of 2020.
I didn't get the motor at my house until I'm trying to think. It was in the winter, it was in December.
Of 2020?
Yes, 2020, yep.
Do you have the date that you purchased the engine?
Yes.
What was it?
January 7th, 2021.
Okay, so the truck sat on his property for 6 months.
Yes.
Before you got the engine, which was needed to fix it.
Yes. He said it was the intake plenum.
Was that in June of 2020?
Yeah, that's when it began. That's the whole...
Okay. When did he tell you that you needed an engine? In what month? Do you recall?
That was in January.
So the truck sat there, and finally you told him that it needed a new engine, but it was already sitting there for months.
I told him 2 or 3 months prior to that.
Okay, so it was sitting there for 3 months or 4 months?
Yes.
And he'd already paid you the $800?
He gave me a little bit here and there, yes.
They already paid you the $800 towards the $1,000. So this is what the case is about. The truck has never been fixed.
He doesn't have the engine anymore. He scrapped the engine, according to him. So you want what you paid for it, the engine.
Yes, Your Honor.
First of all, Mr. Ransell said, well, he worked on another truck for you, a smaller truck, and so that ate up the $800. And you didn't come for the engine, and finally he just sold it for scrap. Mr. Antel, were you very busy during this period of time?
Not really, no.
Well, could you tell me why it took 3 months for you to tell him that he needed a new engine?
He knew after I put the plenum gasket back on. I called him on the phone.
What month?
It had him in November, right before Thanksgiving.
So at the end of November. So you had the truck since June. June, July, August, September, October. You had the truck 6 months. Could you tell me why?
Why? I had problems with it. I couldn't get the bumper off. I couldn't do none of that.
Well, but that's your responsibility. You undertook a job.
Yeah, I took the job because he was supposed to help me, and he never did.
He was supposed to help you put in the new engine?
Help me get the bumper off, and then I had problems with the city of Brooklyn Center.
No. He was supposed to help you get the bumper off, and because you couldn't get the bumper off, you couldn't do the engine. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because it was rusted solid.
Shh. I assume, I've read your papers, I assume this is the mechanic that you say helped you work on another car for him that you gave money to?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why he's here.
Yep.
Okay. In what month and year did you fix this other car?
January
of 2021.
2022.
So in January 2022, the truck was where?
The Avalanche.
The big one.
At his house, at Mike
And
Ringer's.
he brought you another truck?
Yes.
Which other truck did he bring you in?
The Chevy Avalanche.
The big truck, the commercial truck, is now back at his house.
Yes.
And it went back to his house because they were going to tow it from the city.
Yes.
And you say in January, he then brought you a different truck.
Yes, of 2022.
That you worked on.
Yeah, completed it.
Just a second. Do you recall that, sir?
No, it's not exactly how it went.
Did you, in January of 2022, did you bring him, you had the big commercial truck back at your house because it had to be moved.
Yep.
You hadn't gotten your $800 back.
Nope.
And he still had the engine.
Yep.
In January of this year.
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix? You have a driver's license?
It's currently suspended.
How long has it been suspended, Mr. Gruniger?
About a year now.
Now, why is that? Have you had accidents in the past? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, serious ones. Yes.
Michael Griniger claims truck mechanic Sean Antle owes for a truck engine and repair costs. Sean is countersuing, claiming Michael filed a false police report against him.
Now, you hadn't gotten your $800 back.
Nope.
And he still had the engine.
Yep.
In January of this year.
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix?
Because then I had absolutely no transportation. I needed something to work.
Just a second. You have a big truck, you had a little truck. So the big truck is now immobile, it's at your house. And the only working vehicle that you had needed work on it.
Yes.
So you brought it to him.
Yep.
Not yep. That's
yep.
yes.
Yes.
And he worked on it.
Yes.
Because it was inoperable.
No, it was operable, but he told me that...
Not he told you. You didn't bring it to him because he told you you were having trouble with it.
Yes.
What kind of trouble were you having with it?
There was a grinding
Oh,
sound.
that's a big deal. Grinding sound.
Yes.
What parts did it need?
Well, he told me it was the transfer case.
Did he fix your truck?
Eventually, but it was the rear end.
Just a second. Eventually, did he fix, take your hands out of your pockets, did he fix the truck? The second one? The smaller one?
Yeah.
The one that you needed for transportation?
Yes, eventually, yes, he did. He put in a rear end.
Okay. Did you pay him for that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How much did you pay for that?
$300.
How long did he have it?
Oh, he did that within about a week.
2 days.
2 days. Okay. So it took you 2 days?
Yes.
Did you give him a bill for that work?
I didn't give him nothing, just a word of mouth.
He says that he gave you $300 to fix that car. Did he give you $300 to fix that car?
No, he did not.
Okay, do you have any proof?
$600 altogether.
Just a second. Would you please show me any proof that you have that you gave him $300 to fix that car?
I don't have proof of the money that I gave him. I just have the receipt.
He doesn't got it.
Shh.
Okay.
I just have the receipts for the parts that I bought for the vehicle.
Okay.
He first said it was the transfer case. I buy a transfer case.
Doesn't matter. He's working, so.
Yeah, but I paid him to do something. He took something apart of the truck. It wasn't even the problem. But yet I still paid him for it.
But this, quite honestly, I don't
and
understand.
And then I paid him for the rear end, too.
I don't understand a couple of things.
Okay.
If I've been disappointed by a workman, as you clearly were, from June 2020 until January 2022, because they hadn't completed a job for you, despite the fact that you purchased the part, I wouldn't call that same mechanic back. I wouldn't call that same plumber back. I wouldn't call that same electrician back because I'd had a bad experience with them. So it confounds me as to why you would take another vehicle to him if you were so dissatisfied with his work.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, so what?
Felt like I was in, in a tight spot, and I really couldn't
What kind of
afford.
tight spot were you in? Where do you live?
I live in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, that's a big town. There are lots of mechanics there. There are lots of auto repair, truck repair.
Yeah, but I really financially couldn't afford, legitimate.
Well, that's what happens when you deal with a legitimate. But I don't understand why an otherwise intelligent man would take his only semi-operating vehicle to the same person who had his truck for a year and didn't fix it. Listen, what'd you do with his engine?
I scrapped it.
Okay. Don't be mad at me. Huh? Don't be mad at me.
I'm not. I love you.
Okay, good. Thank you. When did you scrap it?
The end of April of 2022.
Did you give him any notice that you were going to scrap his engine?
No, I did not. There's a false police report made against me.
Okay.
I have the case number and the officer's number.
Okay, just a sec. So you retaliated because that's your counterclaim, that he filed a false police report, as a result of which, and the false police report said that during the course of a heated argument about this truck, that he says that you pulled a gun and
did not
filed a police report.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Joe?
Did.
Prove it. You can't.
Mr. Rantel. And that's your counterclaim, that he filed this false police report and nothing ever came of it except you were embarrassed by being questioned by the police in front of family members.
Yes.
And as a result of that false police report, you threw away his motor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, you can't do that. That you can't do. How much did you pay for the motor, sir?
$690 plus I paid $100 for delivery of the motor.
I'd like to see the invoice for that.
I got the invoice for the motor, but
That's
not...
all I need.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Mr. Rantel, so that we're clear, you have to understand you can't get even by selling somebody else's property.
I didn't
What you
sell
do?
it. I didn't sell it. I
Scrap.
gave it away.
It doesn't matter. By disposing of. Let's make it disposing of. When you say you scrapped it, you mean nobody gave you $10 for it?
Not a dime.
Okay. Then you can't give it away in retaliation
Why
for
not?
filing.
Why not? It was in my possession.
No, because you took.
Try to put me in jail for not something I didn't do.
Just a second. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. You cannot sell someone else's property in retaliation for them doing something to you when you have legal recourse. Your legal recourse is to come here and file a case. You did it as a counterclaim and say he filed a false police report against me that I was using a gun. So that's what you do. The response to that isn't, I'm going to sell his property. That's not your response. When I used to sit in family court, I had young people, one of whom was selling drugs for a very long time, heavy drugs. Kid, 15, 16 years old. And he had 6 or 7 priors for selling heavy-duty drugs. And I tried that case, and there was no question he was selling drugs. And his lawyer's argument at the disposition stage of that case was he was selling drugs because his grandmother died. I said, I lost all my grandparents, and I was close to my grandparents. I did a lot of things. I grieved, lost my appetite for a while. I was sad, but I didn't sell drugs. So when somebody does something to you that you believe is against the law, your responsibility is you file a case against them.
Right.
You proceed legally against them. You don't take it out in another way, because that doesn't make a civilized society. Just doesn't. That makes sort of a vigilante kind of thing. So you shouldn't do that. So you have to pay him for his engine. Now, as far as the second piece of your case is the $800 that you gave him, I have no idea how much it was to fix your second car, but he did in fact fix it. And since you had no particular agreement with him on how much it was, and according to you, you couldn't deal with someone, you didn't have the funds to deal with someone who was, I think the word was legitimate.
Legitimate.
That's a problem that I can't resolve for you. Now let's get to this argument and his counterclaim. The argument that you had was over the truck.
The white truck? Yes.
Any truck. I don't care what.
Yes.
I'm not a truck girl myself. I like four-door comfortable sedans. And this argument took place on what date? Why don't you tell me, Mr. Antel, because this is your counterclaim.
It was the end of April.
End of April of 2022.
Yes.
And the police were called.
No, ma'am.
Yes, the police were called. They showed up at my place.
No, the police report is 7/25/22.
7/25/22.
May I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am. Or, Your Honor.
That's a lie, because it was April.
I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
You don't need a truck, you don't need a car. You have no driver's license.
No, ma'am. Me and my son, we work construction together. He drives.
Do you know how old I am? Do you have any idea how old I am? You think that I believe that? It's only going 4 miles an hour.
Michael Griniger is accusing truck mechanic Sean Antle of wrongfully selling his engine and threatening him. Sean claims Michael accused him of flashing a gun he never owned.
Now, I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
You have a driver's license?
It's currently suspended.
How long has it been suspended, Mr. Griniger?
About a year now.
What were you doing driving a vehicle?
I wasn't. They were towing the vehicle with a tow chain.
I understand that. But you drive a vehicle, sir.
I was steering the vehicle.
What does that mean, you were steering the vehicle?
Driving it.
The vehicle
Just-
moving at 4 miles an hour.
I don't care if it was running backwards. I just asked you. You have no license because according to the police, you having a driver's license would be inimical to public safety. That's what it says here. Now, why is that? Have you had accidents in the past? Yes.
Yes.
Serious ones? Yes. Okay. You don't need a truck, you don't need a car. You have no driver's license.
No, ma'am. Me and my son, we work construction together. He drives.
Do you know how old I am? Do you have any idea how old I am? You think that I believe that? It's only going 4 miles an hour. I will set the rules of what it is that means driving. You go 5 miles an hour, it's really not
He lives
driving.
3 blocks away from him. We were just
I don't care.
towing it down the street.
I don't care whether you were in the kitchen, he was in the laundry room. And when you spoke to the police, Mr. Griniger, there were 2 other witnesses, and you would not give them the last name or contact information for either of them. Is that right? That's what it says here, unless it's calling
Yeah,
the
I
police
didn't know his last name.
And you wouldn't give them your son's name because you say he doesn't like police.
And that I want to make straight. That is not true. I would not tell a police officer my son
It should be
doesn't
noted
like
that
police.
Griniger stated that Michael Jr. would not give a statement because he didn't like police.
Right.
As well as
That's
Griniger
not
would
true.
not
My little
give a
brother's
phone
a
number
police
for Michael
officer.
Jr. I'm just telling you, I'm reading you what
I know, I'm
what
sorry.
you handed me. It's your evidence.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Okie dokie. Did you make an application, Mr. Griniger, for any sort of protective order against him?
No.
No. You were advised by the police that you could do that if you wanted to.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, that report is interesting.
It was you, your son, and this person, Kyle, who were present, and only Mr. Antel. Is that right, when this confrontation took place?
Yes.
And according to you, you got out of your truck and you started walking towards him aggressively. That's according to you.
That's not true. He's 40 feet away from me.
No. According to you, I'm reading you what your police report says, sir.
Yeah, but
I'm reading what your police report says based upon what you told the police at the time back in April.
it's not entirely correct.
Griniger stated that he started advancing towards Antel. Griniger also stated that he called Antel while he was walking towards him. It should be noted that Griniger stated, and this is all on body cam, that he was walking towards Antel aggressively. Griniger stated that Antel then pulled what he described as a black handgun out of his sweatshirt pocket. He described it as black and silver trim. He stated that he did not point it or say anything, just showed it to him to make you aware that he was carrying. And after the police interviewed both of you and confirmed the 2 people with you were out and you were walking and confronting him aggressively, called his names, and could not confirm the fact that he had a gun, took out a gun, not pointed it to you, just showed you that he had it, they decided to do nothing. That's what you're telling me. That's what this report says.
Yeah, they didn't validate it as a threat.
They did not validate it at all.
Right.
Okay, so, Mr. Rantel.
Yes.
What happened after that report is that police officers came to your house to ask you about that.
Yes.
Right? And you said, related practically the same thing that Mr. Gruniger did to the police, that he approached you, that he called you a name, that he was aggressive. You said all of that.
Yes.
But you said you did not have a gun.
That's right.
Okay. And this is not meant to hold you criminally responsible for anything. Mr. Rantel, have you ever had possession of a gun?
No.
Ever in your life?
No.
Did you ever purchase a gun?
No.
In your state, in order to purchase a gun legally, do you have to go through a process, or is it a carry state?
You gotta go through a legal process.
You have to?
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever arrested for carrying a gun?
No.
Other than your statement that he showed you that he had a gun, and how far was he standing from you?
About 40 feet.
40 feet away. And you saw him take something out of his sweatshirt pocket.
He didn't remove it out of his pocket. He removed his hand covering it.
What does that mean?
It was in his pocket. He was wearing a hoodie.
How do you know it was in his pocket? What do you have, X-ray vision?
No, my son seen it because his vehicle was right alongside his vehicle. So my son seen it, and then when he got back in his car and pulled up another 10 feet and got out of his car, turned around and said, yeah, bring it, and a few expletives, and then pulled his hand out of his hoodie pocket and revealed the handle of the gun.
Just a second. So you're saying at that time you saw it?
Yes.
You saw it, not your son
My
40
son
feet away.
seen it
Not
on the
son
seat
40
of his
feet away.
car.
That's
Okay,
a lie.
But you
He
saw it.
reached in and grabbed it and put it in his sweater, because when he got back out of the car to face me is when he decided to show me he had a gun.
Okay. Were you out of your truck at the time?
Yes, I was standing beside
Okay,
him.
so you were out of your truck. And what about your son? Was he out of the truck?
Nope.
He was in. What about Kylie?
He remained in the truck, too. He was the one in front pulling the truck that I was steering, and he was following behind. It was a little convoy.
And Mr. Rantel was by himself?
Yes. He was driving down the street in the opposite direction.
Mr. Rantel, I am not satisfied, quite frankly, and cannot make a determination whether or not you had a gun, or what appeared to be a gun, or what appeared to be something in your pocket, or whether you even moved your hand in your pocket to demonstrate maybe you had a weapon. I don't find that the acts that you allege that he committed by filing this false police report is something that I can justify giving you a financial award for, because I'm not so sure that you didn't have something in your pocket. I'm not sure. In any event, Mr. Rantel, you owe him for the engine that you discarded in a peak. You can't do that. Cost of the engine was $590, right? $590. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
I was kind of in a hard spot. I needed my truck fixed.
Try to push me and push me.
I trusted him.
It didn't work today. I won.
Truck is inoperable. It's sitting in my backyard.
I worked for what he gave me.
So I really couldn't afford, like I said, a legitimate shop or a mechanic.
I've never owned a pistol.
Yeah, he's lying.
Basically, if I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight with my bare hands.
Don't do anything without any receipts.
Our friendship is through.
It's really hard when you have two difficult people, but there was something about what he said that had the ring of truth to it.
Very honest.
A directness. And I'm really not convinced. Were you?
No, I wasn't either.
That he had a gun.
It could have gone either way, and while I believed his outburst of innocence, I couldn't imagine making something like that up, but maybe that's just me. So it was really difficult. I don't think I could have made a determination either way either.
Yeah, and I think the answer is here. If you can't make a decision one way or another, it's not supposed to be a guess. It's supposed to be by some evidence.
Yeah.
But you can't sort of take the law into your own hands, and if you filed a police report, I'm going to scrap his engine. That's inappropriate. But with regard to the $800 that he paid him, there's no question he worked on the other truck. And he said he worked on it for 2 days.
To drive it.
And the plaintiff didn't have a license to drive it anyway.
Yeah.
And Sarah, didn't he say, I needed one functional vehicle? So something like that.
We'll have to get Whitney to read it back.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Hi, chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu bức tranh những món ăn nha. Mình sẽ lấy màu cam. Có vào sushi. mình sẽ tô màu xanh, lá cây. Xong rồi mình sẽ tô lại màu xanh. Đó chính là miếng tô màu cam. Vậy là chúng ta đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh một bàn đầy đồ ăn. Và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.